Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Anthem fucking sucks. Spoiler alert. I needed to get that out of the way right away. This is the biggest chore of a game I've ever experienced in my life. I would honestly rather be scrubbing public urinals with a toothbrush than going through the looting, shooting, grind fest of repetitive objectives that this game is. And it's not even really a game, it's borderline unplayable with its loading screens. Angry Joe posted this tweet that illustrates exactly what every mission is like. More loading screen, more time in loading screen than an actual game. That's unacceptable for a modern game. It's completely fucking broken. And a lot of people compare it to Warframe, but to that I say Warframe at least had fun gameplay to back up the repetitive nature of its missions and its grinding, and this doesn't have that component at all. The gameplay is extremely stiff, extremely bland. It's so incredibly mind-numbingly fucking brain dead to play that I couldn't do it. I stopped after 8 hours of playing Anthem, so I'm going to toss this over to Jackson, the masochist that he is. He managed to endure 12, 15 plus hours of this incredibly awful experience to really get under the meat and the scrotum of this game and figure out what the fuck happened and how BioWare could have made something so incredibly hostile to the human intellect to insult it to this level that Anthem does. It is a goddamn train wreck. Jackson, take it away.
So yeah, Anthem sucks. This is without a doubt one of the most unenjoyable AAA games I think I've ever played. Between this and Fallout 76, I think I'd take Fallout 76 because at least it was fun to make fun of that garbage with friends. I want to get the biggest rebuttal of criticism I've noticed online out of the way first. You hate EA, that's why you hate this game. You wanted it to be bad. I really didn't. This is the kind of game that should appeal to me. I love looter shooters, especially ones with so-called shared online experiences. I've put hundreds, possibly thousands of hours into Destiny, and while they're evidently not even close to being similar, it still fit that genre mold that I thought I would enjoy. And the other note of hating EA has to mean hating this game. It's just as stupid. One of my favorite, and also Charlie's favorite games at the moment, is Apex Legends, which is also published by EA. Difference being, of course, that it's well designed, fun, and also functional. So pretty much the direct opposite of Anthem. I'll get my main piece of criticism of the game out of the way first, and this is one Charlie briefly touched on. It's the loading screens. No one game has had this many loading screens. This game has a very clear fetish for loading screens. I'd wager you're going to spend about 2 to 3 minutes on each loading screen, and that wouldn't be a problem to me if it was just one loading screen each time you played, but it's not. Currently, it takes about 3 loading screens on average before you get to any actual gameplay. So there's a loading screen to their social hub, which is called Fort Tarsus. This is pretty much, well, not their social hub, their gameplay hub, which is where you go around and select missions and talk to vendors and stuff. So there's a loading screen to get into that. Then there's a loading screen when you hop into your Javelin to customize it for the mission. So that's to change your weapons, your armor inscriptions, change the color of your suit. Then there's a loading screen to hop out of that into the mission selection screen, which is where you can rally up with your friends and choose a mission or free roam or whatever you want to do. Then there's an absolutely massive loading screen into the actual game world, which is where you run around and shoot, the general game. And so once you get into the game world, if you're lucky as I was, you're going to spawn into a mission in progress, which means the game will give you about 20 seconds to fly to your teammates, which most of the time it's just not possible as they're on the other side of the map, before it teleports you to them. This is just fancy talk for yet another fucking loading screen. This makes the game roughly 1,000 times more frustrating to play because it gives me time to think on each loading screen about how much of a joke this game is and how I should be playing other far better games. Now that you've slept through the loading screens or done your taxes or whatever other time-consuming task you can find to do while you wait, you'd at least expect the gameplay to be worth the wait, right? Well, to a certain degree, the actual gameplay and gunplay isn't bad. There's a fair amount of variety in abilities and skills, and while most of them amount to nothing more than slight stat boosts to specific damage types, it's not a horrible system, not something that I can outright pinpoint as being bad. What is horrible is the goddamn mission design. Never have I experienced such an uninspired and lazy mission design in any of these types of games. Each mission, and I mean each and every mission, boils down to kill enemies, listen to cheesy one-liner from a character you feel nothing but contempt for, go to a new area to kill the same enemies in, listen to another snarky line, and then protect a beacon or something ad nauseum until the mission ends. It's always some mixed match of this formula. That's it. The enemies are all the same, they're all incredibly lazy and boring to fight. It's not fun. The combat itself works, but that doesn't make it fun. My other major gripe with the game is that the story is nothing special. Every character feels like they're putting on this weird stage performance with lots of overacting that really takes me out of the experience. None of the characters are remotely likable. The antagonist of the game shows up for about 5 minutes of screen time and does something, mustache-twirlingly evil in that time. So we know he's a bad, menacing guy that we must defeat or kill, whatever. But not much else is discovered there. There's a sufficient amount of world building and lore, I suppose, but I'm not really a fan of how they deliver that to you. All in all, it feels generally uninspired and dull, much like the rest of the game. There is a story here though, and I would wager it lasts about 8 hours, but probably more, with how much they managed to lengthen the game in the middle with an absolutely ridiculous quest line that gates you off from finishing the story by forcing you to do a checklist of World of Warcraft-esque mission objectives. Things like repair 3 friends, open 15 loot chests, kill X amount of enemies in this specific way, etc. Very boring questline, obviously to lengthen the main story time to something more respectable. The endgame revolves around doing the same missions over and over again in this game's hardest missions, which are basically just longer normal missions with a boss at the end. The bosses don't have any interesting mechanics, they're just bullet sponges who sometimes run away and then you have to wait around killing ads before they show up again. I really don't know how this game took 5 years to make. Yes, games are hard to make, and I fully understand there is a lot of passionate and talented developers at BioWare, and I really don't like saying this, but I didn't see any passion or talent in this game. This game feels wholly like a game that was developed entirely within a boardroom. And even worse, it feels like those boardroom members actually took up the keyboard to code this shit, because I had so many bugs and disconnections, it was remarkable. This ranged from funny, goofy visual bugs where a teammate would spawn without a head, to frustrating tear out my hair bugs like I would miss an entire cutscene because of a crash, and I'd never be able to watch the cutscene again without YouTube kind of thing, to pure rage because after 5 minutes of loading screens, the third and final loading screen would hang up and get stuck at 95%, and I'd have to Alt F4 and restart the game and go through the previous 2 long-ass loading screens only for it to happen again. God damn it, this game is barely functionable. So yes, I don't know how this game took 5 years to make. This feels like a game that took 18 months at the most to make, especially with how little loot there is in this game. In a looter shooter, this is one of the worst offenses you could make. Each gun type has about 3 models, and even the highest tier of weapons use these models, just with skin and color differences. There are only about 3 suits for each javelin in the entire game. The javelins being the suits that you jump into to fight, the big Iron Man looking things. And as far as I can tell, there's only 3 suits for each of them. One is given to you at the start of the game, so it's just the vanilla suit that you get. The second is a pre-order bonus, so you have to pay for that. You have to pre-order the game to unlock it. The third is bought with in-game currency, so the gold that gets given to you through missions or whatever. The amount of gold you need to unlock that is rather large, so it would take some time to unlock the third suit. So that's kind of cool, I guess. So yeah, 3 suits to make yourself visually different from everyone else. That's apparently the best they could come up with their 5-year development time. I honestly cannot think of a single good thing apart from maybe the soundtrack, and I would be fully prepared to score this game under 15% on the moist meter if it weren't for the sometimes nice visuals as well as the nice soundtrack. But again, they're nothing remarkable or great. They're just elevated above just being average because everything else in this game is genuinely trash. I could keep going on about all the flaws in this game, but I don't think there's enough hard drive space at YouTube HQ to host a video of that size, so I'll keep it short. The game is bad, it's unenjoyable to play. I wanted desperately to do anything else other than play the game while I was there. And that sucks because BioWare used to be one of my favorite developers. Alright, so putting this on the moist meter, and this is the first time I get to do this, putting this on the moist meter, we're giving this one a 20% with a strong recommendation not to buy this game until some serious work is put into it. But even then, I don't think they can really patch out the issues this game has. It just suffers from a clear lack of passion and, at times, talent. Anyway, that's it from me. Yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. This has been Jackson and Charlie at Moistmeter HQ. This episode was brought to you by Manscaped.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Watch Dogs game, Watch Dogs Legion. I'm just going to come out right now and say it. This is probably the most boring game I've played this year. This is 2020's Death Stranding. It is so unbelievably boring to play. There's nothing fundamentally wrong. I want to get that clear right now. It's not just full of bugs. It's not like a Bethesda cum dumpster or anything. It functions how you would expect a modern game to function, but it is just so repetitious and uninteresting, from its story to its characters to its absolutely tiresome gameplay. It's just, there's no fun to be had here. This is the most Ubisoft game yet, and what do I mean by that? I mean, like, every single fucking Ubisoft game is the exact same gameplay elements, and just about everything the same, just with a different skin. At least that's the way it's felt in recent times, except for a few fringe cases like Rainbow Six Siege, which is great. But overall, it just feels like Ubisoft only has one kind of game. They're like the Derek Zoolander of game companies. They only have one look, and it is this goddamn look. It's the same formula every time. Open world, explore, minimal stuff to really explore, but you can walk around and then you do the same types of missions in every single game with a few different gimmick changes. In Watch Dogs, it's hacking, and the hacking is not fun. There's nothing very enjoyable about the hacking. It's all just, here, download this data while you stand still, and it just goes from 1 to 100%, or here, throw this spider bot, and then you just walk it and press Y. There's not a whole lot of cool shit with this gimmick here. The only interesting thing you can do with the hacking is control other people's cars and shit, and then like get data on other people, which is kind of cute, but it's not that fun, especially not after the millionth time you've played with that. It's just so tedious. It just feels like Ubisoft decided to parody themselves with this game. It's just so basic and generic and boring. The only other interesting mechanic that I can even point out is the ability to recruit anyone in the world to your team, which can lead to some goofy shit, like I recruited an entire team of people who looked like pedophiles. But when you recruit these people, the things you have to do are still just the same shit over and over and over again. It's so boring. And the voice acting in this game is insulting. It's probably the worst voice acting in a AAA game I've heard in a long time. And Jackson told me that going in, but this is worse than I expected. It is terrible. It's hard to care about the story when even the voice actors don't seem to care about the story. It's terrible. It's really bad. The story's not interesting. Everything's so bland. The world is uninteresting. Everything in the world is uninteresting. It is just not fun. And I compared it to Death Stranding earlier, and I just feel like that's a bit of a disservice, because I did enjoy certain things about Death Stranding. Like, I loved the universe, I loved the world, I loved the narrative, I loved a lot of things about Death Stranding, but there is literally nothing in Watch Dogs Legion that I loved. The only good thing I can say about this game is I feel like players will appreciate it as like a sleeping aid. Like, if you struggle with insomnia, you could probably pop on to Watch Dogs Legions for like 30 minutes and it'll have you out like a light. This game is going to put most people to sleep, I imagine. I can't really see anyone who in this day and age would play this game and just be blown away by anything in it. Everything here is so bare bones. A lot of it just feels like asset flips sometimes. It's just not good. You can tell there's no passion in the game. There's really nothing creative about it. Not that everything needs to be like innovative and a pioneer in its field, but this is the safest, most generic game I think I've ever played, actually. It is just this. It's like they took the Ubisoft template and just copy and pasted it and changed a few things in the matter of like 2 months. It is so fucking boring. Like, I can't stress that enough. Even thinking about it, I'm getting tired. So just plugging Watch Dogs Legion into the Moist Meter, I'm giving it a 40%. And, you know, I know that sounds high with everything I've said, but like I mentioned, everything mechanically works. Like, the game isn't broken, it's not unplayable, it's just boring. It's just really fucking boring. So yeah, that's about it. I don't think this game is going to scratch that open world itch that people get or anything like that. It's no GTA replacement to anyone that was expecting that kind of high caliber experience here. I just don't see what this game offers to anyone that they'll appreciate. It's a very forgettable, well, forgettable being the wrong word. You'll fall asleep while playing it. It's just an actual chore to play. It's just, yeah, I didn't enjoy my time with the game. I usually stream pretty much every new game start to finish on my Twitch, but this game, it was putting the chat to sleep as well as me, so I only played it for like 3 hours on stream and then did the other fucking however many hours I put into this game off stream. It was absolutely miserable, just not very fun. I'm here to talk about Manscaped real quick, and with Halloween right around the corner, now's the optimal time to start your grooming routine. Just in case your Halloween costume calls for having dick and balls flying out in the open, you want to make sure they're nicely trimmed and well taken care of, and that's where Manscaped is going to come into play. I'm talking about their Perfect Package Kit 3.0. It's coming with the Lawnmower 3.0. I've talked about this many times. I use it whenever I need to take care of myself down there. The Lawnmower 3.0 is a fantastic tool with skin-safe technology, so you don't have to worry about injuring yourself or causing some type of catastrophe down there. It is going to get the job done and get it done safely. It also comes with anti-chafing boxers, so you don't have to worry about, some chafing, and also keeping them fresh and cool throughout the entirety of your time wearing them. The Perfect Package Kit 3.0 just really has everything that you're going to want. So if you're interested in trying Manscaped products, you can get 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using code MOIST. That's code MOIST for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Biomutant. Before getting into it, yes, I know this game was made by a small team. I don't know how small the team is. Every time I looked at chat, the number would change. 20 people made this game, Charlie. No, actually 15 made this game. No, really, the team was actually composed of 6 people, and 2 of them are in high school. It doesn't really matter. I understand it wasn't a huge studio that put this together, but the game is selling for $60, which means it's being sold at a AAA price, so I'm going to review it as a AAA game. Under no circumstances is it worth $60 at all. The state of this game is fucking rough. Think Cyberpunk, but with furries. It is very, very, very unfinished. Half of the shit in this game is missing sound effects. It's like I was playing in a sensory deprivation tank. You'd go into combat, you'd be throwing around attacks, and there's no impact to them. You wouldn't even know if attacks were registering or what the fuck was going on, because there's no sound effect, and there's absolutely no sense of impact or weight to anything. Meleeing an enemy in this game is like swinging your arms in the air. It doesn't ever feel like you're actually hitting anything at all. And let me just go ahead and say this. I think the team is extremely talented. I think the actual talent behind this team is there. It's just this is their first game together, and they've missed the mark. They were a little too ambitious, and they didn't execute properly on pretty much anything they aimed to do. There are a few good things about the game that I want to just get out there right now. I love the style. I think the art direction and the universe looks incredible. I love the world. I love the way it all looks, and it just fucking looks beautiful. Visually. I like the character design, and I like a lot of the things they have here for like the abilities, for mutations and shit like that. They're cool, albeit totally useless. Like you'll have a flame dash attack that you will almost never get any damage out of, but it looks cool. So there are cool things there, even though they don't really do much to help you in combat, but they are nice, they're flashy. And that's really where all the compliments end. Narratively, this is a complete disaster. The writing is some of the worst I've seen. It's up there with Kingdom Hearts 3. Typically in a game like this, I'd expect the narrative and the lore to be pretty spectacular, especially one that was in development for this long. But it is nonsensical and downright embarrassing to listen to. Half of the shit in this game sounds like it was named by Discord employees. We're going to Baldydorf. We gotta get some skids. Oh, watch out for the whips and the bloops. Oh my goodness. You're being a real bonker donker. Like, oh, you gotta go see Gulp on Sinky Dink. That's a real thing. Like, those are actual things in this universe. And you'll fight a Tunkeldus. Like, it's really goofy shit. They call elevators uppy downies. That sounds like fucking Australian slang, like brekkie and all that shit. It's, aside from just like the childishly silly shit that sounds like it was named by Wumpus from Discord, the writing is just downright trash. The lore, the narrative, absolutely nonsensical, and every NPC you talk to says the exact same thing every single time. Every NPC somehow says the exact same lines, just changed a little bit. For example, you'll meet a guy named Choo Choo, and his thing is he likes trains. So he'll be like, oh, I remember you when you were a kidling. Life is a lot like train tracks, you know. Sometimes you'll go on the right track and it'll take you where you want to go. Do you know where you want to go? And you'll talk to the next guy who likes to surf. Oh, I love goo. I love to goo and ride the goo waves. And sometimes you have to get on that goo wave to take you to where you want to go. Every single piece of dialogue is copy and pasted. None of the characters have any depth or anything interesting about them. They just look nice. They all repeat the same shit. And above all else, the worst part of everything narratively is the narrator. He doesn't shut the fuck up. Every single thing in this game has the narrator come in to add nothing to it. You'll open a door. Oh, it seems you've entered a room. I wonder what this room was used for. Perhaps we should look around and find what this room was for. Ah, I see you found a rope. Perhaps you should climb that rope. Everything is the narrator. Ah, Charlie is getting a little rumbling in his tummy. Perhaps he's got to take a shit. We'll have to wait until after the moist meter to see if he does so. It is obnoxious. So much so that the game developers had to become aware of it at some point. Like the playtesters were like, this is too much. Because there's a feature in here to make the narrator stop talking as much. If you have to add a feature where your narrator shuts up, you've gone a little far. There's only 3 voice actors in this whole game, and 2 of them are for characters you almost never see, and when you do see them, they're actually copy and pasted lines. There's no difference between them. They don't even change from like railroad tracks to fucking waves in the ocean or anything. They actually just say the exact same lines ad nauseum. So those 2 only had like 5 lines total. The rest is the narrator, and everything else just makes Banjo-Kazooie sounds, and then the narrator translate. My bloopish is a little rusty, but I believe he's saying, thank you, and it's good to see you again. He remembers you had a good heart and were a good boy, and it looks like you haven't lost that spark. And he says that for every single NPC you meet says the same thing. I remember you as a kidling. You had a good heart, and it seems like you still have a good heart, and you're a good boy. It's good to see that. You haven't lost that spark, that light. And the narrator, of course, is the one saying all that and translating. It's awful. I really hate being this harsh, but it is a $60 game. If this game was at $30, I would feel a lot more comfortable recommending this to somebody or being a little less intense on it, but this is going for $60. So I believe at a premium price like that, I really shouldn't be pulling punches and giving you my honest opinion and impressions of the game. The world is completely barren. The most empty open world I've ever seen. Somehow this makes Ubisoft fucking open world games look alive and well and flourishing. This game has nothing. Going from point A to point B is just pure tedium. Sometimes you'll encounter a few enemies along the way, and by the way, every enemy has the same attack. There's only 2 different attack patterns that normal enemies have, and that's it. Everything else is just the exact same. You'll fight a Flumpus, and it'll have the same attack patterns as a Tunkeldus. They don't change. The appearance of the monster changes a little bit, not even much, but a little bit, but their attacks are exactly the same. It's crazy. There's not even any variance to the attacks. And the boss battles all play out almost exactly the same. So, again, I'm getting sidetracked, but the world is empty. Sometimes you'll have those little fights. Sometimes you'll see NPCs in the world, and if you talk to the NPC, if you make the mistake of talking to one, all they do is say, oh, I remember you as a kidling. You were a good boy. You seem to still be a good boy. And then your only option is just say goodbye. So you just go up to someone just to say goodbye. There is no life to the world. It's beautiful to be in, but it sucks ass to traverse, and there is nothing to do in it aside from doing the quests. And some of the side quests genuinely just don't even work. Some of the side quests just straight up don't function. And the main quests are mainly fetch quests. Almost every single main quest is go here, collect 5 of these 5 of these gups, 3 of these pyro sticks, and bring them back, and I'll make your submarine shoot infinite ammo. Go over here, collect 5 of these squeebs, and I'll make your mech shoot infinite ammo. That's mainly all of the quest lines, and then you go fight a boss. It's horrible. The quests aren't fun. Nothing makes sense, so it's not like the narrative is being pushed forward or you're learning anything new, because all of the NPCs have memory loss, it seems, so they'll just keep telling you the same shit over and over and over again. It's like every single NPC in this game is just a clone of each other with a different skin suit on. In a single instance of talking to an NPC, he will repeat your objective 20 times. And not even in different ways. He'll be like, okay, you need to go here because of a world eater. In fact, I think you actually need to go here because of a world eater. Alright, now that we've finished all of this up and you have a good heart and you're very light on the light side, which is, it's very good to be shining so bright as the sun, I think you should go over here to fight the World Eater. All in like one dialogue instance. It's wild. It's like at no point did they ever even try with the writing. It's the genuine bare minimum. It's so dumb. Fuck, narratively it's dumb. But let's get to like the actual combat and the RPG elements. There is like level ups that'll give you stats. You can put plus 10 to strength when you level up, and you can get some mutations. And like I said, some of them are very cool and flashy. But at no point does it ever feel like it changes anything. I put all of my stats into strength, and my melee did less damage than my guns, which had absolutely no benefits to them. I didn't put anything into guns or making those more powerful. Everything went into my strength for melee attacks and critting, and that was my weakest part by far. It feels like stats don't do anything except for health, which just gives you more health. Everything else seems so underwhelming, as if nothing changed. From the time you start up the game to the time you end it, you don't feel like you ever got stronger. You just got more useless shit that you can use, such as spitting acid on the ground that nobody ever stands in long enough to get poisoned. At the very least, though, the combat is flashy. You can slide around shooting and switching weapons and doing some combos, and there are some flashy things to be done there, but it doesn't feel good because the combat doesn't feel good. Everything's so floaty and, again, lacks impact. It's like every single attack you do just goes straight through them like you're fighting ghosts. It's not like there's even physical beings in the game. It's all like a spiritual journey. It's wildly unfinished in the worst possible ways. It took me 8 hours, just over 8 hours, to complete the game start to finish, doing only mainline quests and a couple of side quests early. So it's not like there's a lot of meat to go through if you're just doing main quests, and the side quests I did accomplish sucked. It was you pass through a small village and you kill 5 people, bang, you're done. And that's another thing. The world scale, like the world is big. Like there's a lot to this world in terms of size. But when you actually go through it, it's mainly just grass. If you do encounter a village, it's 4 houses. 4 small houses makes up a village. And a village in particular that keeps pumping into my mind is Blumbidorf, however you say it. It's a village of 4 buildings and 4 people. That's it. So it's just, there's nothing to do except just doing the main quests or just trudging through these boring side quests. And most of it, of course, being fetch quests. It made me very disappointed. I didn't know much about this game going into it, but I left extremely disappointed because I know how many people were looking forward to it. They followed the development for years and were extremely excited. And to see that the state that it's in and the price tag that it has is just gotta be extremely sad for the people that have pre-ordered it and stuff. Because I do believe the team wanted to deliver something special. The passion is undoubtable. They seemed extremely excited about their world and their lore that they spend the first hour and a half doing nothing but telling you it. A literal exposition diarrhea dump. They just drop the entire world's lore on you, and they just seem to really love it. And that's great, but the pacing sucks. They just dump thousands of lines of lore on you in the very beginning of the game, and that really sets the tone for the rest of it. After an hour of the game, you've pretty much experienced everything. Every enemy fights the same. Every fight goes the same. All the main quests are the same. Fetch these things and then come back. It's just sad. It's really a lot of wasted potential, which I know a lot of people are talking about, but it's true. It's in a bad state right now, and the final product is under no circumstances worth your $60. Plugging Biomutant to the moist meter, I'm giving Biomutant a 30%. Unfortunate because the team, again, I do believe wanted to do something special, but they've missed the mark here. I do believe the team is going to deliver great games in the future. They're clearly a very talented group. This one just wasn't on the mark at all. And yeah, that's really about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Call of Duty game, Vanguard. A game I don't think many people were excited for, and rightfully so. This is the most generic Call of Duty game I've ever played. It was literally like playing a fucking parody of Call of Duty. So let's just spread apart these stinky cheeks and dive into the filth. The campaign, this is what I started with. It's about 4.5 hours. That's what it took me to beat it. But that was with some goofing around and speedrunning, so it's probably between like 3.5 to 4 hours if you just like fucking turbo gamer mode it. It's terrible. This is probably one of the worst Call of Duty campaigns I can remember. I really liked Cold War's campaign, and I understand no one's buying Call of Duty for the campaign, but god damn it, if it's going to be in the game, at least put some kind of effort behind it. And they put a lot of emphasis in their trailers on the story mode here, and it is some doggy shit. The entire game's story is basically just a series of flashbacks where you play through your ragtag group of team members' past. It's just Naruto filler episodes for the entire story. So there's one mission where you guys go on an adventure to find some secret papers, but you get captured, and then once you're captured, you all just reminisce about the glory days from the earlier years of the war and what makes you such a badass. And it's not really interesting. The characters aren't fun. They're not well fleshed out at all, which they couldn't be in such a short time frame for the game's story anyway. But it's just really dumb. I'm not exaggerating either. There's only 2 missions in the entire campaign that take place outside of the flashbacks, which is the first and last mission, and they're also the 2 shortest missions in the game. Everything else in between is just flashbacks from different parts of the war where it shows that your teammates are genuine superhumans that have changed the course of history. And that would be fine if it wasn't so fucking boring. Like, even when going through these flashbacks where you're supposed to be, like, really impressed with what they do, it's so underwhelming. It's just so generic. There's nothing interesting about any of it. And there's a lot of missions where it's just defend this point for this amount of time, which is the most boring objective in any game ever, even worse than escort missions. It's just, there's nothing to like about the campaign. But like I said earlier, I know a lot of people don't really care about Call of Duty campaigns, and this is the one that you should care the least about. Just forget it's even in the game. Save yourself with 4 hours. Now let's move on to what people are complaining the most about, which is the zombies mode. Before playing zombies, I saw Twitter was on fire with people whining about it. I saw the word unplayable tossed around a lot when talking about the zombies mode here. So I was a little shocked to see that, because usually people love zombies. And apparently it was terrible here, so I gave it a fair shake, and I gotta say, it's just really bland. As like everything else in this game, it's just really bare bones. I know Zombies has a lot of like intricacy to it, and there's a lot going on with Zombies and all the other titles, but this one, it is as basic as it gets. It feels like you just bought a Steam indie game that was copying Call of Duty Zombies. There's no personality to it, there's no real depth to it. It is just super simple, straightforward, and bland. Which I definitely wouldn't say it's unplayable by any means, because I mean it still works, it's still zombies, it's just zombies watered down and stripped of everything interesting about it. Which sucks, yeah, definitely not good, but it's definitely not as bad as Twitter was making it seem. I was expecting to go into zombies mode and have it just fucking crash my computer and wipe my hard drive. But it doesn't do anything like that, and it's not offensively bad, it's just really bland. It's like they went out of their way to take out things people liked about zombies. Like, it's just missing half of the shit in zombies that people wanted or are used to. It's like they said, hey, what do players like? Okay, now let's fuck them in the ass and get all of that out of there, and then ship zombies. So now let's move on to the biggest component of every Call of Duty game, the multiplayer. I don't have a lot of good things to say about the multiplayer, mainly because I'm really tired of the standard Call of Duty formula, but it is the exact same Call of Duty formula you're used to. As like everything in this game, it's painfully generic. There's nothing new about it, nothing it tries to do better than previous COD games. It's content just being the exact same Call of Duty multiplayer experience that you're used to for the last like 8 years. So if you like Call of Duty, you're gonna like Vanguard's multiplayer. It's functional. I think the movement's smooth. The movement's something that stood out to me as being better than previous CODs. I thought the movement was really silky. But other than movement, that is the only like noticeable difference from other games, and it's not even that big of a difference. It's just the only thing where I was like, this does feel better than some other ones. Everything else is just the exact same Call of Duty experience that we've got for the last 8 years. So if you like that, you're going to love this. I have really nothing else to say about it. There's one other thing I like. They added something called Blitz, where you can choose Blitz as your playlist option, and it gives you big teams against big teams, 12v12 on all the game modes. So that's nice. I think Blitz is a cool addition, but other than that, it's just the same formula again. Gunplay feels the same, guns feel the same, maps pretty much the same. Nothing really wild or interesting about it. You know exactly what to expect. Now let's go ahead and plug Call of Duty Vanguard into the moist meter. I'm giving this bad boy a 45%. You're better off forgetting this game even comes with a campaign, because it's horrible and just a genuine waste of time to play through. And the zombies mode, if you're a fan of zombies, is going to severely disappoint you, because it is stripped of most things that people liked about zombies. So if you're a fan of zombies, probably not going to be a fan of this one. But if you just want like a bland generic zombie shooter, then it's serviceable, so that's cool, I guess. And multiplayer, again, if you like Vanguard, you're gonna like the multiplayer. That's probably like the only good part of the game I can say. Well, like I said, for me personally, I'm super tired of the Call of Duty formula, so the 4 or 5 hours or whatever I put into the multiplayer is going to be the only time I touch the game, because I have no desire to just keep playing the same goddamn thing over and over again. But I know there are a lot of people who still really like the Call of Duty formula, and it's completely fine. Like, this is still a normal Call of Duty game that I don't think anyone's going to be like shockingly disappointed with its multiplayer or anything like that, because movement's good, maps are fine, blitz is fun, and you get the same experience that you like. So I think fans of the franchise are going to be very pleased with the multiplayer. And yeah, that's about it. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at the new Saints Row, and I'm just going to be honest, I'm coming to you right now as a failure. I was not able to complete the new Saints Row game. It's like the one chip challenge, but instead of spice, it's just dog shit game that just makes people tap out from pain. It's so bad. It's very rare that a game is so unbelievably bland, boring, and awful that I don't finish it. Usually I can push through it, and I usually really enjoy bad games because they can be laughably bad. And make no mistake, Saints Row starts out laughably bad, but by hour 4, where it's the same missions every single time with no changes except the location, it just becomes so mind-numbing and miserable. Every single mission in this game plays out exactly the same. You're either going to be on a turret, just shooting waves of enemies on a turret, in a car, shooting waves of cars that chase you, riding on top of a car, shooting waves of cars that chase you, just all these static on-rail sections, or you're going to be standing in a location defending someone as waves of enemies come at you, or occasionally you'll storm a location, you'll shoot through like 2 waves of enemies, and then you go into a turret section or a chase section where you're just shooting cars. It's so miserable. 10 hours of non-stop unfun anguish. And to be honest, it'd be fine and excusable if the gameplay was good, but it is not. And I don't know what the other reviewers are seeing in the gameplay that's giving them high scores. I don't know what's happening, if they've even played the game or if they played it with their eyes closed. I don't get it. The gameplay is objectively dated. It is not good. It is bland gameplay, and I felt like I was playing a 2006 title. Like, if this game came out over a decade ago, it'd be totally passable. But it didn't. It came out in 2022, and it is a massive step down from even Saints Row 3. The gameplay is trash. It is the most uninspired, unfun, cookie-cutter snooze fest. Every fight plays out the same way. You don't have, like, powers or anything anymore. You have abilities that you use, but the abilities are super boring. You're basically just a guy with all the powers of a teenage boy. You can throw a grenade, you can throw a smoke bomb down, you can throw a landmine, and a couple of the abilities are kind of fun, like you can put a grenade on someone's belt and throw them and they explode. That's the only enjoyable one. The fire punch, which I thought would be cool, was super lame and underwhelming. Just overall, the gameplay is super stinky, inexcusably so. It is objectively, this isn't like an opinion, it is dated. It doesn't do anything that you would expect from a modern AAA title. It goes backwards. It is a giant step back from Saints Row like 8 years ago. Like it blows my mind that anyone's giving it a pass. I understand liking other aspects of the game, which I'll get into in a minute, but the gameplay itself is something that can't just be overlooked. It is just not good. The driving is terrible, as you'd expect. Saints Row's always had bad driving. I'll just say it like it is. I'll hit you with the cold water. The driving in Saints Row's never been great, and it's just as bad here, so don't expect any improvements on that front. But again, the main blemish is just how bad the gunplay is, and don't even bother trying melee because you're just going to want to throw yourself down the stairs in boredom. The melee, my god, I don't even know where to begin. I don't even know why they bothered to put it in here when you only have 2 moves for everything. But regardless, the gameplay is just not fun. And the missions being so formulaic where you know what's going to happen every single mission is also not helping. So now moving on from the gameplay, let's talk about what I'm sure all of you are hearing, which is the writing. Yes, the writing is as bad as you've seen in the Twitter clips or have read about from other reviewers. The writing is so fucking trash, but it's almost so shitty that it's good. It's almost to the room level of how awful the dialogue is. Like, I'm sure you've seen in the intro cutscene, the main character has like a bit of a hissy fit in the car, and depending on what voice you pick, they'll say some stupid shit such as, crapity, crapping, motherfuck, crapping, motherfucking crap. And that dialogue is for every character ever. Every character is exactly the same. They all speak like an angsty child going through a phase. It's like this script was written by an AI that was forced to only study Twitter. It is awful. It is abominable. It should be downright criminal how bad the writing is often in this game. It doesn't stop. It is unrelenting cringe. And like I said, I love bad games. You know, I always do find enjoyment in bad games, and I did find that here in the beginning with Saints Row, but it just becomes too much, right? It never stops being embarrassing, and at a certain point, you can't help but hate it. And my heart breaks for the voice actors because they had to read this script and do their best to try and save it with their performance. And I don't think the voice acting's bad. I don't think anyone did like a terrible job with their characters. I really think it is all just the direction and the writing, like the actual script here and how they were instructed to deliver the lines. It's so bad. And the story is of course bad by extension. You're gonna hate every character unless you're just laughing at them, and the story isn't good either. Oh my lord, it's a complete fucking disaster from a narrative and character perspective. It also doesn't help that the open world in Saints Row is the emptiest in all of AAA gaming. I can't think of a more dead open world than this game. It makes Ubisoft's open worlds look alive. Like Watch Dogs Legions somehow felt more alive than this fucking game. You'll drive around from point A to point B and see nothing. You'll see a couple other cars on the road, but the AI is always malfunctioning, so sometimes they might be driving up a mountain for no reason or hitting each other or killing themselves, like driving into rivers and shit. But aside from like the goofy spectacle of bad AI, there's nothing in the world. I don't even know why they bothered to make it open world in this case. They could have just done a linear Saints Row and it would have at least been better because it would have saved time driving from point A to point B that'll take like 10 real world minutes sometimes. So there's a lot I don't like about the game, so you're probably wondering, is there anything I do like? And the answer is no. There's really almost nothing in this game that I had fun with other than the wingsuit and a couple of silly missions. I always appreciate the silliness of games and a game that can embrace it, and Saints Row obviously tries. But because the gameplay is so bad and every mission plays out exactly the same, it's hard to enjoy the silliness because it's immediately bogged down by waves of enemies that become a chore to just chop through. Some of them are just bullet sponges, some of them die in one hit, but either way there's always hordes and hordes of enemies and it's not fun to fight them. But in the few minutes of fun before the enemies show up, where the characters are doing something like going to get a special toy from a burger place or roleplay or LARPing around the area talking about like the House of Tapeworms and shit, like I appreciate the charm there. And there are very clear moments that are like a direct homage or paying tribute to other properties, which I of course appreciate. But again, then the enemies show up as they always do with just waves of like static turret shooting and it sucks and you're immediately taken out and you go back to just being miserable. But I do like the wingsuit. I did like some of like the actual mission ideas like LARPing, for example, but aside from that, I really do struggle to find things I like, except for cutscenes. I think when they're doing main mission cutscenes, those work pretty well. Visually, the game's not great. I mean, you can look at this game and immediately see that it's not the most impressive. It does look like it belongs on the Xbox 360, but I'm not like a big graphics stickler. I think direction trumps trumps graphical fidelity 100% of the time. And there are a few missions where I appreciated where they were going with the direction, doing crazy shit like, you know, ramping a car off of a rock, landing on a sign, and using that sign to, you know, crush cop cars. You know, that's cool. Those cutscenes are cool. But then again, you get back to the mission, and it's a buggy mess of gameplay. That's something I haven't even mentioned yet. The bugs. This game is full of glitches, so much so that it makes Cyberpunk look like it was polished on release. There are so many fucking bugs in this game, it is wild. It is head-spinning. But, you know, that's not even the biggest issue I have with it. It's, again, just how boring the fucking gameplay is. Anyway, plugging Saints Row into the moist meter, I'm going to have to give this like a 25%. It's rough. It's so rough. I don't see why anyone would choose to play it past 2 hours, you know, while you can still get a refund. It doesn't change. Within that 2 hours, you can pretty much experience everything the game has to offer. You encounter every faction, which they're all pretty much the same. They don't do anything special. You've encountered the only main ability that you'll have fun with, which is the grenade and belt and throwing them. And the gunplay never evolves, nothing changes, and every mission has the same objectives throughout the entire game. So I think within 2 hours, you know exactly how the rest of the game is going to go from a gameplay perspective. It's just going to be a matter of, do you like the writing? Is this your taste? And I think for the majority of people, it's going to be a resounding no there. Even people that'll like it in the beginning, it just becomes too much because they never let off the gas. The writing is just so aggressively bad that I think even if you enjoy it in the beginning, you'll be turned off by the end. Anyway, that's about it. See ya. Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I'll go ahead and admit up front and honest here, I had no expectations of this game whatsoever. I thought it was going to be pretty bad. I'm a huge fan of Rocksteady, and I thought this was going to be their first blemish, their first real miss. I love the Arkhamverse. I even love Arkham Origins. Even though I think it's the weakest of the bunch, I still think it's a great game. But everything they showed from Suicide Squad, from its marketing material to it being a live service game, just didn't look appealing to me. But I'm always open-minded and willing to be proven wrong and pleasantly surprised. But unfortunately here, the only pleasant surprise I got is that the game is short, so you don't have to suffer through the tedious grind for that long. Now, I don't think the game is great by any means, but it's not nearly as bad as everyone's saying it is. I think it's better than the Marvel's Avengers game, which I thought was a fucking dumpster fire. I think it's better than Gotham Knights, which I thought was abominable. But by no means is it a great game. At best, it's mid. And it's extremely frustrating that this game is a live service game, by the way. I'm so tired of that shit. You can't play it offline. I think they're planning on introducing an offline mode, but right now you can't just play it without an internet connection. So when I started it up last night, it crashed twice because of the server. Even though I'm not playing with anybody, I couldn't just enjoy the game without having to be perpetually fucking connected to do so. It's just nonsensical. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into the real meat here. Narratively, I was actually pretty invested off rip. I think conceptually it's a really fun idea for the game, and the first half of the story I actually thought was pretty well done. The voice acting, I thought crushed it. The characters I thought were enjoyable and endearing, especially King Shark. He really felt like the main character of this game. He was the one that I played mostly, like I kind of mained Shark. You can switch around between any of the Suicide Squad members and play as them, but I really liked Shark the best out of the lineup, and in the story, he definitely shined brighter than anyone else in the crew. The writing's going to be really hit or miss depending on who you are and what really tickles you. For me, a lot of the jokes weren't landing, and that's probably because the characters just never shut the fuck up. It's just this perpetual cacophony of noise as characters scramble to shout a joke every time you move in the game. There isn't a single second that passes in Suicide Squad where someone's not trying to make a quip and be quirky. And that was just a little grating to me after like the second hour of it. But for a lot of other people, I'm sure some of the jokes will be landing more often. It's not like a huge complaint. I didn't hate the writing overall. It was just too much all the time. But like I said, narratively, I was invested in the beginning. Unfortunately, it falls off so hard in the second half. The second half just goes fucking hog wild into the stupidest ideas imaginable. I don't want to spoil anything, but the second half of this story, the tits just get blown wide open. It goes so cattywampus, I don't know what happened. It feels like there might have been some kind of internal panic, maybe like a crunch time, and they just felt they needed to wrap the game up as quickly and unsatisfactory as possible. Because they had set up something good. Like I said, I spent the first half enjoying the story, and the second half is a disaster, an absolute disaster. And it's made worse by the fact that this game has the most despicable boss battles I've played in a long time. The boss battles in this game are laughably pathetic. So when you're fighting the Justice League, that's not a spoiler, the name of the game is fucking Kill the Justice League, so obviously you're going to be fighting them. When you're fighting the Justice League, the boss battles are so underwhelming. I would have rather you not fight them at all, and it just gives you quick time events as your fight with them. Or just give me like a fucking visual novel, a point and click, anything besides the boss battles in this game, because they are trash. So let me give you an example. This was in some of the gameplay footage, so it won't be a spoiler. When you're fighting the Flash, he does 2 moves. He has literally 2 moves that I can recall. I don't think he even has a third one. And all you do is you dodge his tornado, and then you dodge his beam, and then you counter it. And when you counter it, then you can shoot him a little bit. And you do that for like 3 bars of health or whatever, and then that's the end. And it's just every single time you do one of these boss battles, there's no real reward, there's no payoff, there's nothing cinematic about it. They just kind of plop over and go, like they just plop over dead. Because you found their one weakness, enough bullets. It's so bad. I don't know how the boss battles even exist in this state? Why no one stood up and said, listen guys, these suck. Why was there no hero at Rocksteady that said, guys, we gotta redo these boss battles because PU, it's stinky, and all of our quality assurance testers are bored out of their minds doing these fights. And I guess to give you a little minor spoiler, but just to really drive this point home, the final boss fight, the boss you've been striving to fight and defeat this entire fucking game, is literally just using the exact same moveset as your first boss fight. It's the Flash. He uses the Flash's 2 moves and that's it. They couldn't even design a unique moveset for the final boss that you spend fucking 10 hours grinding to get to. It's just pathetic. The boss fights are truly horrendous. Like, the bosses just aren't fun to fight or anything at all. It's just a headache. Now, let's talk about the gameplay, though. So, the gameplay I actually enjoyed quite a bit in the beginning. It's flashy, it's fast, it's fun. The movement I enjoyed the entire time. I actually think the movement from all the characters is really fun, except Harley. I didn't really like Harley Quinn's movement all that much, but the rest have really fun ways of traversing the world. And the gameplay I did enjoy for a time, but it becomes so repetitive by like hour 4 that it becomes a chore to keep doing. Now, and I don't think it's even really the gameplay's fault. I think that's the fault of the lack of enemy variety. There's only 3 enemies in the game, I'm pretty sure. I think there's just 3. And the way you fight them doesn't change. You do the same thing for every single enemy. You don't have to fight them a special way or do anything different to beat them. You just keep pumping them full of lead, occasionally counter, and that's really it. You can melee too, but the melee is really bare bones here, unfortunately. It also doesn't help that it's the most boring enemies in gaming. It's just alien zombies that shoot. That's it. So while the gameplay was fun in the beginning, it got really tedious towards the end. The combat is fast, it's flashy, and there is some fun variety to the builds that you can do because you find these different weapons that change things around, tweak things, give you modifiers, and you can do some pretty interesting stuff. But it just really loses its luster when there's nothing to really test it against because it's just the same enemies repeated over and over and over again, and you don't have to do anything really special to beat them. You just shoot them a lot and then occasionally counter when there's a blue indicator. Another thing that holds the gameplay back and makes the combat feel dull is the missions. The missions are tragic, absolutely insulting, because the missions are the same things over and over and over again. It's so repetitive. And God, please, heavens to Betsy, save yourself from this game if you hate escort missions, because there's so many. There's escort missions out the wazoo. I can't believe we're still getting escort missions in 2024, let alone this many. There were so many escort missions in this, I was nauseated. But even when you're not doing the boring escort missions, you're doing these fucking boring, like, tower blow-up missions, where all you do is you kill like a group of 4 enemies that zap in, they phase in. You kill those 4, which breaks a shield on the crystal that they're protecting, and then that crystal opens up the incubator, so then you go to the incubator and then just press square and it blows that up. Mission complete. And you'll do that like 5 or 6 times. And if it's not that mission, then it's the mission where you need to collect data. So you kill some enemies that spawn in, and you get little data cards, and you bring them back to your truck. And then you do that 8 times, and then 16 times. And those are like, that's the kind of missions that you get in this. And I really think it's because they needed to make that for it to work as a live service game. They needed these easy, simple, repeatable missions in order to make these daily challenges so we keep logging in for your dailies and whatever. And it sucks. The missions are so bad. They're so boring. And it's just, after the first hour of the game, you have experienced every mission the game has to offer throughout the entire 9 to 10 hours of the game. In fact, the final mission leading up to the final boss is just doing the previous 2 missions. It super sucks. You just blow up the incubators and then you go and gather data chips and bring them back to the Goober Mobile, and you rinse and repeat that process all the way up until you get to the final boss, which is just the copy and pasted Flash moveset. It is so lame and underwhelming. Like, the combat, like I said, was fun for a while, but there's just really no opportunity for it to shine when there's just nothing really new to do with it because you're doing the same shit over and over and over and over again. It really is a shame because I do think there was potential with the gameplay formula. I was skeptical going in that they'd make that work, but they did. Like, I actually think there was real potential with using these mechanics that they introduced for its combat, but it was surrounded by like the worst design choices and just nothing to do with it at all. It's such a shame. And I really think it's because of this live service thing that they were forced to fucking shoehorn into the project. Now, I'm sure the project was always envisioned as a live service game, but I know this wasn't their first choice. It's very well documented Rocksteady wanted to do other projects, but then ended up on this one, and then some of these, well, I think pretty much all of like the senior Rocksteady staff left. So it became not the project that they set out to make. And it really feels that way. So much in here feels like it was some kind of corporate decision to put it in, as opposed to like an actual, game developers like, this would be a good idea. It just feels like so much of this was here because it felt it needed to be for the live service model. It's just so sad. Rocksteady's games meant a lot to me, and to see them put this out just makes me upset. Because I know they can make great games. We've seen them make banger after banger. But this is a clunker. It's not as bad as everyone is saying it is. It's just inexcusably mid. Insultingly mid. And I really get the feeling that they knew that too. Which is why they didn't send out the review codes or anything prior to launch. It just feels like they didn't have that much faith in it. And it really feels like there's blatant padding in here. Like, I can't think of an explanation for why there's so many escort missions. Everybody, every developer, every player in the world knows that escort missions are flops. Nobody likes escort missions. And there are so many in here. What a fucking fumble. What an absolute fumble. There's just no reason for that to be here other than they felt forced to put in these like really generic, repeatable standard missions because it's fucking live service. It's not great. Anyway, plugging Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League into the moist meter, I'm going to have to be giving this a 45%. And I guess mid would be a 50% here, just perfectly average in the middle, but I'm giving it a little under that because the second half of the story is truly abhorrent. And the second half of the game is just spammed with the worst missions the game has to offer. So it gets very, very, very annoying towards the end of the game here. So it's just a shame. I also do predict that this game won't be around long. It's looking like they're trying to get like 12 seasons out of the game, 12 to 13 seasons out of the live service experience here. So even when you beat the game, it's not done. I think there is a non-zero chance this game doesn't make it to 12 seasons. I think they might pull the plug on it before then, thus it would never actually be completed. And if they don't introduce the offline mode in time, you'd never be able to play it again because you'd need the online, which they, I think, would probably take off if this game doesn't sell super well. So it's just really a game that's not worth the $70 price tag right now. It certainly wasn't worth the $100 I paid to play it early for the early access to it. But anyway, that's really about it. See ya.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap. Issue 3 is out right now at godslapbook.com. You can find links below in the description. Go check it out.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Dead Island 2. Man, what a weird experience this was. I'm just going to be honest and upfront right away. You know, I'm just going to go ahead and pull down my pants and give you everything I've got right off rip. There is only two things in this game I think are good. One is the combat, and the combat's good, not great. Like, it's very safe. The combat itself isn't anything unique or anything that you're going to be, like, losing your mind over, fucking falling out of your chair because you're so blown away by the quality of the combat, but it is good and it's serviceable. But what is actually very impressive is the gore mechanics here. It feels like this is where all 10 years of development went, is the gore here. If you just start punching a zombie, different pieces of them are going to fly off. You'll just keep chopping up different parts of their meat. Intestines will leak out, and they're also physics-based intestines, so if they're standing up, they'll just fall down and like pool on the floor. If you start punching their stomach when they're already dead, they'll kind of like loosely leak out. It's all super impressive. The gore mechanics in this game are probably some of the best I've ever seen in gaming. Like, up there with like Left 4 Dead. It is so good. They put so much care into that. So maiming zombies, which is a core mechanic of the gameplay, is always satisfying because it's always different. It kept the gameplay fresh, and it really felt like there was just millions of ways of chewing up and spitting out zombies, just fucking eviscerating them, and you'd never see the same death animation or death gore twice. It was very, very, very impressive. But aside from those two things, everything else in this game is just not good. I know that Dead Island 2 was trapped in development hell for about a decade, and it fucking feels like it. This actually feels like someone unearthed the game back from 2013. All of it fits right at home back then. It's the most generic, average zombie game I think has ever released. And for some people, that's a totally fine thing because it's a comfort food. You know exactly what you're getting when you order the Dead Island dish. You're getting a generic zombie experience, but it has that extra seasoning of some very, very beautiful gore. But everything else is just, you know, the calories you're expecting to consume with a zombie game. But that's not a sin, that's not a crime, but you know what is a crime? How fucking awful the writing is. The writing in this game is actually worse than Saints Row. I'm just going to say it. It is worse than the new Saints Row. I played as Danny because I liked the perks she comes with. Her intrinsic abilities I thought were fun and I could make a fun build around them, but it was not worth the headache of having to listen to her speak. Every single line she had was miserable. At no point does Danny or any of the other characters in this cast stop ripping the worst one-liners you've ever heard, unironically dropping references that were dated even in 2013 with "get to the choppa," which they use like 9 fucking times. It doesn't stop. It is unrelenting, unapologetic cringe, and it's not even charming in a goofy way. It's just grating and annoying. The writing is unbearable, and the story is so fucking bad. There is one absolutely unforgivable atrocity this game commits that not even the Lord could forgive, and that's the ending. I'm not going to get into spoilers, but I'm going to tell you it just ends abruptly. When the game rolled credits, I was stunned. I sat there on stream for an additional 30 seconds just trying to actually process that it ended, that it wasn't just some kind of fake out thing. The credits started rolling and I thought it was going to be like another stupid joke, but it wasn't. The game just ends. It felt like we were just at the halfway point. Like, it actually felt like we had just reached the halfway point of the game. There was still so much to do, and it's not even a cliffhanger. The game just ends with like one thing saying, "Oh, so you're doing this?" And she's like, "Yep, I'm doing that." And then it just ends. It's so mind-bogglingly awful. And I think what happened is, it became very clear to me that they really just wanted to get this game out. Come hell or high water, it didn't matter. Quality be damned, fuck it, I don't care if there's no ending. They wanted to ship it. They needed to get this off of their books. They needed to get this, zit cleared off their face. They had to ship Dead Island 2, and it didn't matter if they didn't have an ending. So that's exactly what they did. Everything just fucking full stop ends. It's not a cliffhanger, it's not suspenseful, it is just awful. They close the curtains while things are still happening and nothing gets resolved. Pretty much everything you do in this game is worthless because there's no ending. It's just terrible. The story and the writing are by far the worst parts of this game. And it's even worse because the characters don't shut the fuck up ever. So you're constantly inundated with the worst lines you'll ever hear. But let me get to the things that I like. Like I said, the combat. I do like the combat. It's nothing to write home about, but it is fun. There's a decent variety of weapons, and there's a lot of fun mods that you can play around with. So you're doing all the standard generic zombie shit, where you're collecting a lot of materials in the open world to bring back to a workbench to upgrade your weapons. There's a lot of variety to them, and I do think you could probably make some pretty interesting builds out of it. I thought it was all pretty standard stuff, though there were some standouts, especially when it came to like force mods. I ended up really liking a giant fucking sledgehammer and just blasting things with a shockwave, because Danny, when she's using a heavy attack, gets a shockwave. And so I started to play into that, whereas initially I was running with faster weapons to try and like dismember enemies, but it wasn't doing a lot of damage. I was mainly just going up there and fucking tickling them, blowing a raspberry on their tummies, because a lot of the enemies are very spongy in this game, so making a fast attack build to try and maim and crit wasn't working for me, so I eventually switched to more of just huge impact stuff. But the point is, there's a lot of build paths you can choose, and there's also another system in here with perk cards. So there's these cards that you collect in the world, they give you perks, and you can outfit your character with different perks. They come with abilities such as like a drop kick, a flying kick, a shockwave slam, and then there's perks that'll augment those in certain ways to play into how you want to run it. Of course, drop kicking is very fucking strong, so for a while I was doing a drop kick focus build. Also, all of the skills do significantly more damage than any of the weapons, really. The guns were highly underwhelming. Even some of the best guns I was getting kind of sucked asshole, but that doesn't matter because the guns aren't the focal point. It also wasn't very satisfying when you were ADSing. For some reason, the ADSing was very slow and clunky, but again, the guns aren't where the emphasis is for the gameplay. I do think the melee was fun, albeit pretty slow at times. One thing I think that was a huge hindrance to melee combat is they had this insistence on always using slow-mo. There is more slow-mo in this game than in a 9-year-old's Windows Movie Maker project that they uploaded to YouTube 15 years ago. There is slow-mo anytime you're in a fight. Anytime you kill an enemy, there's going to be like fucking 4 seconds of slow-mo. It is excessive and unnecessary. Now, one other cool thing about the combat that I do appreciate is they had some really cool mechanics with fuel cans as well as water cans. So you can pour fuel around, and it's all physics-based as well. Like, the attention to detail on things like fluid mechanics and gore blows everything else in this game out of the water. Everything else is like really rudimentary standard stuff, but then when it comes to fluid mechanics and gore, they went hog wild. Like, they pulled no punches. So there's fluid mechanics here, so when you're pouring water, you can like wash away blood if you want, you can wash away fire, and it's all really interesting, but you can also play around with it in terms of combat by covering an enemy in water and then throwing like a curveball shuriken electrified at them. Curveballs are basically like your consumables, like a Molotov cocktail or, like I mentioned, an electrified shuriken, and since they're covered in water, they'll blow up into an electric explosion, which will start stunning them as well as other enemies around them. And the fuel can, you imagine what you can do with that. You can pour fuel on the ground, light it on fire, catch people on fire, blow shit up. That was cool. I really appreciated that. That added another layer of depth to everything, and they really have that throughout all combat arenas, so you can always be using it. It's not, you know, scarce or anything. But yeah, overall, gameplay is exactly what you're expecting with some nice flavor to it. It's fun. I did have a good time with it, and I did get kind of into trying to find the optimal build for a sledgehammer and try and make that really pop for me. So I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the gore, and pretty much nothing else. I also think the setting fucking sucks. In here, it is the most cookie cutter settings ever. You go to sewers, you're on these streets of Beverly Hills, everything looks exactly the same, there's no character to any of the locations at all, it all just fucking blends together and it's not interesting. There's also no enemy variety, so the final boss is actually just a normal enemy that you've encountered 50 times throughout the game. Like, they don't have anything interesting with their enemies, not even their boss fights, of which there's only a few. It's literally just the same enemies you've fought a million times before, but with a name this time. It's so underwhelming. But what makes it even more underwhelming is how dead everything feels in the game. There is absolutely no zombies in it. There is no zombies in the zombie game. When you're going from point A to point B and wandering around the world, you don't encounter zombies at all. Maybe you'll encounter like a pack of 3 or 4, but that's it. It is completely fucking barren. So you don't even get the fun of a sandbox to go around and just chop zombies to pieces. You just don't. You're literally walking around a fucking ghost town. Another thing that was weird, and maybe this one's just me, but the hit detection on the zombies seems super janky. Not like landing hits on them, but them landing hits on you. It completely lacked any oomph or like any impact at all, so I would never even know if I was getting hit. It felt like they almost forgot to program like you getting hit by zombies. I would just notice my health was going down and my screen was getting red, but other than that, I had no fucking indication that I was even getting attacked. And sometimes the zombies attacks didn't even look like they came close to hitting me, yet I'd notice my health would go down from it. But it's not that big of an issue because in this game, death doesn't even really have much of a penalty, so taking a death isn't the worst thing in the world. And especially if you're just going crazy with it and just trying out stupid builds and stupid ideas with weapons. Now, it is worth mentioning the game is co-op. I played it solo, but I know this game is much better co-op. Every game is better co-op. So I'm sure if you're playing with a friend, you'll probably have more fun with it than I did. But yeah, overall, just not a very good game. Plugging Dead Island 2 into the moist meter, I'm going to give it a 55%. I didn't hate my time with it, but it really did feel dated, and it's a shame. 10 years in development and delivering a very lukewarm dish is always rough. But yeah, anyway, that's about it. So yep, as most of you know, we started our own comic book series called Godslap. Everyone who's read Godslap so far has unanimously agreed that it's the best comic ever produced, and Godslap is well on its way to becoming the biggest name in all of comics, overthrowing Marvel within the next 5 years, according to recent scientific projections that I'm pulling out of my ass. It's a passion project created by myself, Jackson, Danny, and Matt, and we brought in an industry veteran named Aubrey Sitterson to help write it with us, and we're extremely proud of what we've created. Issue 1 and 2 are already out, and Issue 3 came out today, as of right now. Issue 3 is available at godslapbook.com, and per usual, this is the standard cover, but we also have 2 limited edition variants, which will only exist until they're sold out, and they'll never be reprinted. So they're available at godslapbook.com.
This episode of Moist Meter brought to you by Godslap Issue 2. Go to godslapbook.com to order your copy now.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we're taking a look at Forspoken. This game had a lot of buzz around it before it came out, but none of it was positive, and it mainly had to do with very cringy dialogue and writing in a trailer. And I didn't really believe that would be indicative of the game's writing. However, I couldn't have been more wrong. It actually dials that goofiness all the way up to 50 out of 10. There is no point in this game where the main character, Frey, isn't being snarky, rude, or sarcastic. She's written as if she's constantly playing Call of Duty in an Xbox Live lobby, just perpetually talking shit to everyone around her for no reason. The writing in this game actually does feel like the product of Marvel having sex with Twitter's most annoying comedian, and the two of them performing this unholy fusion dance to write this game. I can't really overstate how annoying the dialogue was in here. It somehow made the most recent Saints Row game look not shitty in comparison. And unfortunately, it's not just the character writing with awful dialogue that feels like it was written by ChatGPT trying to emulate an edgy high schooler. That extends to the narrative as well to a certain extent. I think the story had a lot of potential, and I was pretty interested early on, but unfortunately it just really can't deliver the story beat super well. Like, the entire ending to this game kept repeating the exact same statement at least 9 times across like 30 minutes of walking from point A to point B for exposition. The amount of times that it kept reminding you of the evil guy is evil, and then saying the exact same reason he's evil over and over and over again just became so mind-numbing. I thought I was trapped in like a Doctor Strange Dormammu time loop kind of thing. I'm not kidding either. They say at least 5 or 6 times that evil villain is evil because he has done this evil thing which was very evil, and they repeat it fucking 1,000 times in such a short period at the end. It's just unfortunate because I do think like the core elements of this story are pretty interesting. I think the world could have been very cool, and it's visually beautiful. I think the game looks great, and I love the way the combat looks. Unfortunately, the combat itself doesn't feel very good to play. I'll get to that in a minute, but I want to stay in the more narrative and writing focused things since that was the biggest critique on the game from most people even before it came out. So I really just want to like elaborate on all of that to let everyone know that it is exactly how it appears to be in all of the promotional material with that whole freaking dragon. Did I move that with my mind? I just move shit with my mind. Yeah, I do that now. That is the attitude throughout the whole game, but then not even sprinkled, overly seasoned with the main character just genuinely being an insufferable asshole to every other character in the game. I want to really highlight this because it's something that's very frustrating to me. A lot of games and TV shows keep making the protagonist extremely unlikable without ever giving them a redemption arc. I have no problem making your protagonist like mean and hard to be like rooting for early on, but usually they go through subtle changes and they develop into a character that you can root for. Otherwise, what's the point in making a player bored and miserable playing a character that they don't like? That is what I thought they were going to do with this character, but unfortunately Frey never evolves. Up until the last 30 minutes of the game, she stays exactly the same. She's mean and rude to everyone. She wants nothing to do with this new world she finds herself in. And she even point blank says, even at the very end, that she doesn't care if the entire world burns. She says it to a girl who just lost her father, a girl who's supposed to be her friend, a girl that has literally saved Frey's life, and it's been an incredible, like, very nice person. Frey looks her in the eyes and says, I don't care about any of you. I don't care if your world burns. It's not my problem. I just want to go home. And then she even tries to like out-trauma her by mentioning that she grew up on the streets without anyone like parents to look after. So she should be thankful that she had a dad. Like for some reason, she's just trying to like out-victim her. And this is a girl who's supposed to be a friend of Frey's that just lost her fucking father. And Frey knows that. Frey held her father's hand as he passed away. And then she still turns around and just says, I don't care about it. I don't care about any of you. And all of this is happening at the very end of the game. I think this was the chapter before the final one. So she just never really developed at all. She just stays truly awful. And I'm just going to briefly tackle this because I've already seen a lot of people making this brain dead argument saying that people just don't like women protagonists. That's why people are hating on Frey. I think that's such a load of baloney. If this was a man that was written in the exact same way, I'm confident the majority of people would still have the exact same complaints. Now, of course, there are going to be weirdos that are complaining that it's a woman in the game, but there's going to be weirdos in everything. That's not the majority of people that have a very legitimate complaint about the writing. If this was a man written the exact same way, delivering the same lines, having the same character arc, everyone would still complain about it because they're just an asshole for the sake of being an asshole. So I know I spent a lot of time on that, but that's probably my biggest complaint. Now, the combat I do think had a lot of potential to be really interesting, but I think it was betrayed by how dog shit the AI is. I started playing this game on hard, and it was extremely easy. The game pretty much plays itself. It's extremely forgiving with your dodge timings, and it's really easy to avoid the attacks from all of the bosses and even just normal mobs, because I don't think there's a single enemy in this game that has more than 2 attacks. I mean, maybe 3 for a couple of them, but they only have like 2 or 3 attacks maximum. It's super, super easy to just not get hit. I didn't die a single time in this game. But the only difference between easy mode and hard mode is hard mode, all of the enemies, including normal mobs, take like 5 minutes of persistent DPS to finally kill. They are so fucking spongy, but it doesn't add anything else. I don't even think they do more damage on hard mode. I can't even recall now. They're just extremely tanky, so it's just tedious. It's not fun, it's just tedious. And the AI is so fucking stupid, you don't even really have to think about it. You can just walk up to anyone and any boss, any mob, and just easily kill it if you just spend enough time damaging it. You don't even really need to worry about dodging because half the time it'll even forget to attack you. I really like a lot of the spells, and I really like that you're able to mix the support and offensive spells pretty frequently. Like, there is cooldowns for some of the spells, but while those are cooling down, you can just use other ones and then combine them to do really cool things, and you have a lot of spells at your disposal. I also like the upgrade tree. Even though it's just like flat damage increases, they're not that creative. The spells themselves make up for that by being flashy and cool, but since there's nothing to really put it to the test on and like make you get creative on how you tackle combat, you can just spam the same shit over and over again. So it's not really a lot of fun to experiment with its combat system, though I do think there was a lot of potential with it. There's, of course, the magic parkour that I think you've all seen now, and that feels pretty good. Sometimes it gets a little janky when you start encountering some walls or tight corridors or even some cliffs, or not cliffs, but just like general open terrain like rocks in there. So sometimes it gets to be a little bit of a headache, but I do think overall that was pretty fun, and there's even like this little like lasso you can swing around with. So I thought the traversal mechanics, the parkour, all that was cool. I would have just liked if the combat itself was a little bit more interesting. Also, there's not many enemy types in this game at all. Like, it's mainly just zombies and then a couple of animals, and then the bosses are kind of different, but it's not a whole lot of enemy variety, and the enemies just don't really do anything, which, again, I've already touched on. Now, I will openly admit I didn't do any of the side quests because they all sounded like little fetch quests, just actual chore simulator stuff. So I didn't really bother, and I really wasn't interested in any of the other characters' stories because all of them were so poorly written. It made it hard for me to get excited to do any kind of side content. I really just kind of beelined the main story. It took me right around 8 hours. There is a lot you can do in the world. The world itself is kind of dead and just kind of lightly scattered enemies here and there, but there are some things you can do, such as these dungeons. There's these dungeons that you can enter for some powerful gear where you go through a couple of layers, then you fight a boss at the end, you get some cool gear. That gear can be things like a necklace, which gives you some certain bonuses, or nail polish, kind of. There's nails that you can do, which give you certain bonuses as well. So you paint these things on your nails and they give you bonuses, which is kind of silly, but kind of cool. Those were pretty fun. I stopped doing them halfway through when I realized it just doesn't really matter. It is so generous with how much XP and mana it gives you. You can pretty much fully upgrade anything just by beelining the story. There's never any real incentive to farm for better gear. There's also some challenges you can do throughout the world to give you even more mana, and the challenges are just kind of defeat boss in this amount of time, and it's really generous. Then there's also like Assassin's Creed lookouts that you can activate, which is kind of scan the area. The open world itself is very unimpressive, like with what it actually has in it. Just very standard stuff, but it was serviceable. I don't have any complaints per se. It was a fun world to go through. Albeit, I think it was a little needlessly big, because going from point A to point B would take a long time, even just beelining it, because of course all you can do is run with your parkour, which does have a cooldown after you've used it for a certain period of time. And you'd be going like fucking 5 miles across a very barren, empty terrain. And then, I mean, you could do like a detour and do one of the dungeons if you want, but nothing too crazy in that department. Another thing that I didn't mention when it comes to its narrative is a lot, and I mean a lot, of this game is spent slowly trailing an NPC as they dump exposition. It's just listening to a story being told by an NPC that you're forced to follow slowly. It gets really frustrating. That's the majority of like campaign missions, is follow this NPC around the town for a little while, then go here, kill person, come back, do it all over again. It's not a good way of delivering your story. And then once they're done telling you the story, they'll play a cutscene that doesn't really have a whole lot going on except for more characters just talking, even though you've already spent like 5 minutes trailing one who's also just talking. It's just, I don't know. I didn't really like the way they delivered the story in a lot of cases. Maybe it was a budget problem, which I do think might be the case, because at the end of the game, you spend the majority of it just going point A to point B. And I mean majority, like I'm talking like 45 minutes out of the last hour of the game is spent just going from point A to point B, touching these little floating things that give you story. They just give you exposition and lore. And you just sit there and listen to it, and then you go to the next one with nothing happening in between. And then there's like a boss fight towards the end. But it feels like they didn't have enough resources to do cutscenes for these things, which I think would have made it much, much better at the end of the game, as opposed to just forcing you to go touch these small little floating objects to look at static images that just talk at you. So yeah, it's just, I feel like this game really did have a lot of potential, but it just missed pretty much in every department, which is a real shame. Plugging Forspoken in the moist meter, I'm going to be giving it a 45%. I do think there were things to like about it, but overall, I just can't say I enjoyed my time with it. Especially towards the end, I really think they fucking flopped hard with the conclusion to this one, and just overall was mainly a miss. Just wasn't a great game. That's about it. Godslap is a comic book series we've been working on for a couple years now. It's a hyper-violent, over-the-top sci-fi story about the beauty and destruction that slaps can cause. Issue 2 is out right now. It'd make a wonderful Christmas gift, so make sure to check it out at godslapbook.com. Right now, we also have 3 variant covers that are in stock, but the second those sell out, those variant covers will never be restocked, so definitely make sure to pick up a copy today.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Polygon's calling it the Dark Souls of game reviews. Today we're looking at Darksiders 3. Darksiders is a series that's very near and dear to my boners. I'm a big fan of the Darksiders series. I love the first 2 games, the first one more so than the second, and I was beyond shocked that this game even got released. Now, this game is getting absolutely fucking grilled by the micro-dicked everything's problematic games journalists out there, and I don't think it's entirely warranted. This game has many problems which I'll cover, but this game has something most modern games are lacking. Soul, passion, real passion put into the project. When you beat the fucking game, there's a message that says a special thanks to the fans and family members of the team who supported us in our pursuit to create awesome games. It was the most wholesome moment I've ever had in video games when I beat that shit and saw the credits roll. Nearly brought a goddamn tear to my eye. The game truly is a labor of love from the team. I really want the game to do well, even though I don't think it's a great game or anything. I would love to see more from Darksiders because I think this had a lot of potential, but due to the low budget and time constraints, it really did miss the mark, unfortunately. Of the 3 Darksiders games, this is easily the weakest. Everything feels super rushed, from the story to the gameplay to the characters. It really shows its low budget and time problems because, like, the lip sync is really bad. It's fucking abominable. The lip sync looks like straight out of a DOS-box game from the late 90s. The story jumps all over the place. 1 second, Fury thinks humans are insects and hates them, thinks they should all die, and she doesn't care. And then the next scene, she's all of a sudden giving a big fucking pep talk to the humans like a quarterback in the locker room, hyping up his team before the big championship game. And there's nothing to connect those 2 points. All of a sudden, Fury will have a moment of self-reflection, but for no reason. There was no catalyst, nothing that really brought that about. I think the team had a clear direction they wanted to take the story, but they couldn't get there. They couldn't flesh it out and develop it because they didn't have the time or the budget to do so. So instead, you get these jarring transitions and nothing really connects. Also, the gameplay gets really clunky. The dodging is really picky with what they consider a perfect dodge and also what is even a dodge to begin with. The camera will actively do its best to fuck you in the asshole. The lock-on scarcely works, and when it does, it's not super helpful. It makes it a little bit more confusing when there's mobs. When there's mobs, you may as well just give up, start praying, because it all boils down to luck if you're going to survive the encounter. The game's difficulty is super high, but not like a Dark Souls way, like all the game journalists are saying, like this is Dark Souls meets Darksiders or whatever the fuck. It's nothing like Dark Souls. The only thing that has in common is they're both hard games, but Dark Souls is hard but fair. Darksiders 3 is hard but unfair. There's no chance in some of the encounters when you get to them for the first time because there's nothing you can do about it. You wouldn't expect it. You'll just get jumped from someone around the corner and they'll 2-shot you because almost everything 2-shots you. A fucking enemy could fart on you and it'll take out half your health. And there's really just nothing you can do about it. You just have to sit there and get fucking beef stewed and stink-faced by the enemies because the dodging doesn't really work and there's no blocking. But all of this being said, all of these negatives, Darksiders 3 has this undeniable charm about it. It's a very old-fashioned kind of game from a time when games didn't have like a meta to stick to, where it wasn't only big budget titles that had to play it safe, where everything was just by the numbers, no risk taken. It comes from an era of games where developers would just throw a bunch of shit at the wall and hope something stuck. And that's when Darksiders was originally born, and it still has that charm from back then. And I really appreciate that. The world is very nice. I think the art direction is fantastic, and it does have a good overarching story to tell, even though they didn't have time to flesh it out and really make you care all that much. It still has an interesting story to tell, not as good as the previous 2, but still good. I liked most of the characters. The dialogue at points got pretty fucking bad, though. The dialogue really tried to make Fury kind of edgy, but she just kind of came across as like an asshole edgelord. And not just her dialogue, pretty much all the dialogue in the game is not super great. There's some good lines here and there, but the strength of the writing comes from just the story and building the world. And I really appreciate that. I thought the boss design of the 7 Deadly Sins was spectacular. I thought each boss looked really fucking cool. with a fun little move set and gimmicks to them. While the gameplay wasn't super tight, it was enjoyable at points. When it worked well. It's at its best when you're only fighting one enemy. When you're one-on-one, you can get some cool moments and a good fight out of it. But even if there's two enemies, it's going to feel really unfair. It's going to feel like there's not a whole lot you can do about the situation unless you've leveled yourself up well or got really good enhancements. And the reason is mainly because when there's more than one enemy, the camera just doesn't know what to do with itself. And if you try and lock on, just fucking turn off the game, because the lock on is awful in a 2v1 situation or more. You'll just start swinging at the air and it's going to be disorienting. The puzzles in this game I thought were actually very well thought out. Some of the puzzles took quite a bit of thinking, and when you did solve it, it was like this nice eureka moment that felt good. Not as good as like Legend of Zelda or even the previous two games, but they were still nice and they're fun. I always enjoy puzzle solving shit in hack and slash games, and here they were pretty well designed. Overall, I'd absolutely say I enjoyed the game, and I'm super happy it got made, and I really do hope it does well enough sales-wise to warrant a fourth installment into the series with a bigger budget and more time, because this game showed a lot of potential to be great, but unfortunately it just couldn't get there. I'm going to go ahead and plug this shit into the moist meter now. I'm giving Darksiders 2 a 60%. While it does have many flaws, I don't think any of them make a game unplayable or completely unenjoyable. There are definitely a lot of frustrating aspects about the game. However, I would recommend this one to anyone who enjoys hack and slash puzzle solving games or just wants a very challenging game. This one will definitely fucking test your patience, that's for sure. And overall, I do think it was a decently good game. So yeah, that's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Gene Rain is without a doubt the most mind-numbingly awful gaming experience I've experienced in 2018. Every adjective that you could possibly ever use to describe a road-killed animal that had shit itself right before becoming roadkill, and then it just got killed and smushed into the shit, became this disgusting abomination of roadkill and feces. Every adjective you could ever use to describe that scene is applicable to Gene Rain. Every one of those adjectives fits perfectly at home when describing Gene Rain. Every emotion that you would experience when looking at a pile of dog vomit is an emotion you will feel when playing Gene Rain. Everything you've come to expect from video games has been thrown out the fucking window for Gene Rain. This game tries to reinvent what we've come to understand as existence, I suppose. This game challenges your very ideas of what it means to exist in a corporeal dimension. This game, I can't even put into words how brutal it is to play. The best compliment I can give Gene Rain, objectively speaking, is that at least it's only a 3-hour game. That's the best thing it has going for it. Now, the game is incredibly bad. I think I've made that abundantly clear. Every possible category for gaming that you could ever grade a game based on, this has a 0. A hard fucking 0. But what this game does have is charm. The dialogue is so poorly written. The script is as if someone was using Google Translate for the first time and decided to try to Google Translate a Shakespearean play and then put it into the game. And it's so beautifully delivered by the voice actors that are clearly not native English speakers and have never even heard the words they're pronouncing. It is so beautiful. It's a beautiful catastrophe when it comes to storytelling and dialogue, and it is so fucking fun. The story is incomprehensible and all over the place. It's diving into the mind of a lunatic. It is so fucking crazy, and it's amazing. It's such a wild ride that no one out there at all will ever be able to fully understand at all, and even the slightest. And the best part, they're planning a sequel. They're planning a fucking sequel, and I'm excited. I like bad games, and this is probably one of the worst I've ever played. Half the time your bullets don't even work. You might as well be shooting confetti at them or just kind of blowing really hard in their direction. The fucking loading times are excruciatingly long. The checkpoints are unforgiving. You'll be sent back to the fucking beginning of the level if you slip up at the very end. The invisible walls are abundant, so sometimes you'll just be walking around and you can't go that way, even though it looks like you can go that way, because there's an invisible wall there. There's so much wrong with the game. The enemies are the most uninspired asset flips I've ever seen. They all have the most generic names in the world, like one of them's called Ninja, and the other ones are just Black Mechanical Guy, Silver Mechanical Guy who guards things. Those are real titles for real enemies in the game, and shooting them is the worst experience ever. Taking cover hardly ever works. The melee is broken. You may as well have just never even bothered having that button on your controller. There's so much wrong with the game. It's such a fucking bad game. I streamed the whole thing start to finish, and it was it was 3 hours and 4 minutes to beat start to finish on the stream, and I look at it as a positive experience. The game was so bad it revolutionized what I perceive as bad games. It was fucking legendarily bad. It's fucking crazy. It's such a wild ride, but I would never recommend it to anyone because it's $25 for this 3-hour lack of thrill adventure. But goddamn, this is such a unique, awful title. This is like a Neil Breen video game. It's fucking great, but not good. It's not good. It's not great. It's not good. There's nothing great about it. Please let me make that clear. If that's not clear enough, let me plug this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Gene Rain a 2% on the moist meter. That's the lowest score I've ever given. The only reason it's a 2% is because there is fun to be had because of how objectively bad the game is. But everything in this game is basically a 0%. It's hardly even functional. It didn't crash, but it did drop a lot of frames. The game barely works. You'll be fucked by things that you had no chance of fighting back, with bullets going through the wall, coming through the ground, God himself smiting you. Whole bunch of things wrong with the game, everything wrong with the game. But it is still so bad that it can be fun. 2% on the moist meter, baby. That's a new milestone. Great fucking work, Gene Rain. I'm excited for the sequel. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Welcome to the Moist Meter. Today we'll be analyzing the moisture within, the evil within too. There's not a whole lot of evil within here, and there's not a whole lot of moisture within here either. I don't mean to immediately spoil that off the bat, but I've been reading the reviews for this game, and everyone's giving it like an 8 out of 10, and I wholeheartedly disagree with that, and I really just can't understand what could have warranted that high of a score for this game. I think it's an enjoyable game, but it's just barely above average with a ton of flaws. Now, it seems that every reviewing outlet is just comparing it to the first Evil Within, which I really enjoyed, and it seems all the reviewing outlets are echoing the same thing. It's better than the predecessor in this area and that area, so here's an 8 out of 10 and 9 out of 10. But it's all in regards to the previous game, not as an actual game itself. It's just better than the last one, so we're going to give it a higher score. And I think that's really misleading, because there's a lot of problems with this game. I think it's still enjoyable, but there's definitely objectively a lot wrong. The first being uninspired voice acting. The voice acting is just laughably bad at some points. A lot of times it feels like I'm playing House of the Dead and listening to Goldman talk to me. There's certain times where I felt, I could do a better job, and when I do voice acting and I hear that shit back, I'd rather be listening to a fucking urine stream hitting a toilet bowl. And it's enough to really take you out of the experience, and the game's supposed to really be an emotional journey, but the voice acting turns it into this comedy experience, and the script doesn't do it any favors. The dialogue can be so laughably bad. It feels like some 12-year-old wearing a trench coat was trying to think of some edgy lines and they threw them in here, and it just comes across so flat and bad. And the main story really isn't that bad. There's a lot of pacing issues, but the story overall is exciting, it's interesting, and it's different, which I always welcome. But it's really held back by some truly horrible dialogue and awful voice acting. They would have been better off just doing a Banjo-Kazooie route and just having grunts for all the characters than having the actors they had in here. Just have them fucking farting into the mic at different pitches. That would have been better. The voice acting really was just one of the worst things about the title. Especially towards the end, that's when the voice acting really rears its ugly head and starts throwing small dicks into the glory hole. There's a really emotional scene where the main character Sebastian does something really traumatic, and his response was just a simple no, uttered with the same intensity and emotion I would give if I accidentally spilt a little water on my kitchen floor. Now, aside from just bad writing, bad voice acting, another thing that was really not great about this game was the gameplay, and I'm seeing a lot of praise for it from the reviewing outlets because they're comparing it to the first one, which was mechanically not great, and I will say, the gameplay has improved over the first one, but that doesn't mean it's good. I mean, it's like comparing, you last 4 seconds during sex, and then the next time you last 5. Yeah, it's improvement, but that doesn't make it that great either. So the gameplay is very stiff. It's very clunky. The gunplay, not great. There's a crafting system in here, some upgrades that are very bare bones. I see a lot of praise for them, but they're extremely bare bones. They're very simple stuff. Here's a point, you get a little health. Here's a point, you get some stamina. Here's a point, you sneak around a little better. There's nothing really creative about their upgrades. The weapons are the same. Here's a little firepower. Here's a little ammo clip. There's nothing really interesting about it. Every time you get into an intense firefight and then you have to reload, you don't have any way of dodging or doing anything special to get out of there. So you have to do like your old man jog out of the way. That's just a little waddle that looks like you shit your pants. 9 times out of 10, you're still going to get hit. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. It's your fault for getting into that poor position, that poor situation. You should have been a little sneakier, and the game encourages stealth, and the stealth is sound. The stealth is pretty well done, but when you do get into a firefight, it's not great. It's really not. You end up just functioning like Bastion from Overwatch, and you just have to sit there, shoot your clip, and then wait a couple of seconds before your character can respond to do an animation to run away. Another thing I see a lot of praise for on the game is its level design. I think the level design is probably 10 times weaker than the first Evil Within, and that was far more linear. The levels here are all exactly the same. Here's a few pieces of cover. Hide behind it, wait for one of the zombies to go around you, sneak kill it. There's no puzzles to really be solved. There's no puzzles at all, really. I think there was 2 throughout the whole game, and they were very, very simple. And the level design was always the same. Go right, go straight. Go right, go straight the whole time, and then you hide behind cover whenever you see enemies and just wait for them. There was nothing special about the level design. It wasn't inventive, as a lot of review outlets are claiming. Now let's get to some things I liked about the game, and a lot of things I can agree with the other reviewers out there. The atmosphere of this game is fantastic. I love the little haunting atmosphere they have going on. Union as a setting is really nice and interesting. And I think one of the main villains, the artist, is fantastic. Hunting him led to some really memorable moments, a lot of really cool set pieces, and a lot of awesome environments. The artist definitely was the best part of the story and the best part of just playing through the game. There's also a certain charm to playing this game, and the story is good enough to make you want to finish it and see how it ends, even though there's quite a few plot holes in there. I also really enjoyed the soundtrack to this game. The music was absolutely beautiful, especially at the end of the game. Truly just a fantastic fit for the tone. Everything just kind of fit with what was going on. Music was truly a massive improvement over the last one. Just fantastic score here. There's also quite a bit of content here. It took me 10.5 hours to beat the game, and that was without playing a whole ton of side missions. I also didn't even find all of the weapons either. So there's a lot to do and a lot to find within Union here. And there should be, because this is a $60 price tag, so there should be a lot of content. Now let's pop this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving this a 55%. Like I said, I feel it's a barely above average game. It's enjoyable, but it has a ton of flaws to it. And it's also not really a survival horror type of game. It's more of an action type of game. If you're someone who enjoys a more old school experience and doesn't mind clunky controls and a lot of different superficial problems, you'll probably enjoy this. And if you're a fan of Resident Evil games, you'll definitely probably enjoy this one. But from a purely objective standpoint, I really can't understand how every single reviewer out there is giving it anywhere from an 8 to 9 and everything in between. I haven't seen anything even below an 8 for this game yet, and I just don't understand it because there's such glaring issues with this game in every possible department. Yes, it's still a fun game to play, and yes, there is improvements over the first one, but that doesn't make it an 8 or 9 game. Even compared to the last one, I don't think the improvements are that significant. In fact, I almost prefer the first game for the most part. But yeah, anyway, that's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in to today's moisture forecast, brought to you by Charlie and Jackson's Weather Nudes at 9. Today's forecast really fucking dry. Not many clouds in the sky today for Drawn to Death. Drawn to Death is a new game for the PS4 from the Bartlett Jones Supernatural Detective Agency, and it's free for PlayStation Plus members and $20 if you're not on PlayStation Plus. That really shouldn't even be talked about because there's no reason at all you should purchase this game if you don't have PS Plus, because you won't be able to play it online, which is the whole draw to the game. So you'd basically just be paying $20 for a high schooler's coloring book. The game's just a standard third-person arena shooter, but you have some abilities tossed in there. I know a lot of people have compared this game to Overwatch, because for some reason anyone compares anything to Overwatch. I could take a shit right now and they'd somehow find a way to put that into the Overwatch universe and compare the two. This game is absolutely nothing like Overwatch. It's just a very generic shooter, and there's nothing wrong with that. I respect that, actually. Not trying to reinvent the wheel, just playing into a genre and trying to do it well. And it is competently made. The game works, the guns work, everything looks really great. The best thing about this game is definitely the presentation. I like the visual style here in the setting. It's supposed to be a high schooler's notebook come to life. It looks really great, although it's a little hard to believe that this notebook truly belongs to a high schooler, considering there's a severe lack of butt-naked titties and pussies drawn in here. There's also no bad slam poetry or rap lines in here, but I'll suspend my disbelief just because I really do like the visual style here. The characters look great. They all have different abilities that set them apart from one another. The guns are nice. I like the old school style where you go and pick up your shit to give you the edge, so that way it's not just loadouts that really decide who's better. You know, it's not you level up and you're instantly better than someone who's a lower level than you. Understanding the map is what's going to give players the advantage over the others. And all the maps look nice. Like I said, I really do just like the presentation of this game. I really like the way everything looks. Now, that's pretty much all of the good stuff I have to say about this game. Let's get into the stuff I don't like, and there's quite a bit. The game just doesn't feel very good to play. I can't really put my finger on it. The characters just don't move very well. They don't feel super responsive. The melee may as well not even exist in this game. It just doesn't fucking work at all. If you try to melee someone, it's about the equivalent of just pulling your pants down in front of them. There is never a situation where meleeing will be the optimal choice. There's also quite a lot of network problems here. The characters will just start teleporting everywhere. You can throw your chainsaw and then all of a sudden you have your chainsaw right back to you. It's like a fucking yo-yo ball. Except unlike the yo-yo ball advertisements, this game is not so much fun or easy to do. Take my word from my nutsack to you. Aside from just network issues, the game is horribly unbalanced right now, which can be expected from a launch title, but it's really bad. While most of the weapons feel good to use and they all look really good and they're really unique, some of them are just pretty fucking useless compared to some other ones. For example, there's a weapon called the Star Laser, and it's just by far the best weapon you have available. And if you go up against someone who's not using the Star Laser, it's basically like you're the Death Star squaring off against a gardener who whittled a handgun out of a bar of soap. It's just not a competition. You're gonna win that every time. And this bad balancing extends to characters as well. There's some characters that I think are just pretty fucking useless, and then there's some characters I think are just way too good. For example, Alan, the chainsaw-wielding teddy bear, is by far the best character in the game in my opinion. He just does a shitload of damage, and then he can go invisible pretty much anytime he wants to, so he can just escape or surprise you with an ass blaster. There's just no reason to not play Alan, especially when your other choices are characters like Cyborgula, which is just a glorified Voltorb, because the only thing that fucking useless thing can do is explode when he dies. That's about it. He just self-destructs. Another huge problem with this game is the humor. It's unbearable. I know they're going for that high school type memeing humor, but it is a meme overload. It's fucking ridiculous. Every time you pick up some health, the announcer goes, fucking tasty. You know, that's not bad one or two times, but every time you pick it up, fucking tasty, fucking tasty, fucking tasty, every single time. Sometimes just randomly throughout your match, your narrator will say some weird shit. I'm popping a hard stiffy boner for my rectum flaps, am I right everyone? Big common real ejaculatory, masturbatory, hey, what's up? It's like the game was fucking written by Amy Schumer. It's just excessive. There's nothing wrong with using common boners and stuff. I love that kind of shit. Bring it on, but to use it every couple of seconds, it's just way too much. Now, all this considered, by far the thing that I hate the most is the ability to put a GIF with your character, so when you complete the game, a little GIF shows up, and then also during the game, the GIF can show up, and they're the worst memes I've ever seen. There's like a little kid that just keeps zooming in on his face saying, I keel your face, and it just makes me so uncomfortable. I wanted to turn the game off the second I saw that. I just wanted to pull the fucking plug, just hit the fucking breaker switch on my apartment and just turn off all electricity. No one deserved it anymore after seeing that in this game. Fucking disgraceful. Now let's take everything into consideration here and pop this bad boy into the lab and put it on the moist meter. I'm gonna stamp this at about a 45%. Right now at launch, the game just has too many balancing issues and network issues. A lot of people are going to experience a lot of lag, a lot of time in between games to try and find players to connect with and get the game going. But I do love the way the game looks, and I think most people will like the way the game looks. All the guns are really cool, all of the weapons are great, characters look great, and their abilities make them very different from one another. Although some are just completely useless while some of them are just fucking unstoppable. I don't imagine this game having a very active community for that long of time unless they make some serious changes to the network code and the balancing problems that it's experiencing, and also toning down the amount of times it mentions hard wieners. But this is a competently made game, there's clearly a lot of effort put into it and it clearly shows, it's just it missed its mark. But this is a fun game just to kind of kick back and play in small doses, 4 or 5 matches, have some fun, but past that it's just going to get stale and you'll probably be bored to death. But most people are going to be drawn to the way the game looks and the way the characters play. So yeah, that about sums up this Chalk Zone for Teenagers game. So yeah.
Initiating moisture.
Breaking news from Moist HQ. It's raining tears, because Yooka-Laylee was incredibly fucking disappointing. Spoiler alert. Now I firmly believe a lot of games that we used to enjoy growing up are just games that were good for their time. Going back and playing them, they haven't aged well. Perfect example is 007 GoldenEye. That game's not very fun to play these days. So when we think back to these games, we look at them through rose-tinted pussies because we think of how great they were at the time. An exception to this is Banjo-Kazooie. I think that game has aged well, and in fact I actually marathoned that game before Yooka-Laylee came out just to get hyped up and just be excited for Yooka-Laylee. But unfortunately all of that excitement turned to excrement because this game's quite shitty. I'll start with my biggest complaint about the game, is just how uninspired everything feels. It all just feels rushed and forced. It doesn't feel natural and it doesn't feel as confident as Banjo-Kazooie. A good example is the music. At some times Grant Kirkhope will shine like a bright nipple piercing. But then other times it's just some generic music playing that's easily forgetful, unlike in Banjo-Kazooie where every tune was something easily recognizable if you heard it outside of the game. The levels were also pretty bland for the most part. There were some good levels in there of course, but a lot of them were just so boring to play through and just tedious to get through. I swear some of these levels were made in fucking Halo Forge. It's just, they didn't put much effort into some of them it feels like. The characters also aren't very likable or interesting except for the snake. I do, however, like Yooka and Laylee. I think they're a pretty good combo. I thought they were very well designed and kind of interesting, but apart from just these 3 characters, the rest are just so boring. The game really just doesn't seem finished. It feels like there's a lot they didn't implement in here. This feels like an early access title I'd pay $5 for on Steam. Now let's talk about the controls. The controls are just fucking abysmal for the most part. Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie had better and tighter controls in this game. This is just a load of donkey farts. You have as much control over your characters as you would a bodybuilding uncle that got too drunk and you're trying to lead him home. It's just so fucking difficult to get the character to do what you want it to do. You'll fall off of a ledge because you just couldn't make the turn sharp enough. If you're trying to control your rolling ball, just give up now, because that shit has a mind of its own. It's just, I hated the controls. Now, sometimes the controls did work, and in those few instances where everything just kind of clicked and the controls were nice and responsive and things worked, the game felt great. But between the inconsistent controls and the just horrendous camera, you're going to be frustrated more often than not when playing this game. Let me make this clear, the camera, there is nothing good I can say about that bitch. The camera is so fucking horrible. It's just schmeckeldorfing to me how Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie would have a camera that could follow you around better than this one does. Now the dialogue and writing, I thought was fine. I know a lot of people are complaining about it, but I liked that feeling. I liked how it felt like an old Rare game in that regard. The grunts and random noises for the characters, it instantly hit me with a wave of nostalgia, and I still enjoyed it in this new game. Some of the dialogue was definitely cringy, and they went way overboard with how many times they reminded you that this is just a silly video game. But overall, I didn't mind the writing or dialogue or anything like that. I thought it was pretty good and fitting. I also enjoyed how there was a large selection of abilities to use. I thought that was nice. It kept it fresh. You had a lot of different shit at your disposal. I also just liked how much shit there was to collect. I'm a fan of the old collectathons for the N64 and PSX era, and there was just a lot of shit here that I could collect. Fucking everything was collectible. Could have collected diarrhea. Never know what you're gonna find when you dig deep into there, what kind of treasures lie in wait. And speaking of diarrhea collecting and just assholes in general, the fucking retro wrecks. I hate the arcade games in here. The little mini queefs that you have to play in here for some pages from the dinosaur. Just don't even touch them. Just avoid that motherfucker at all costs. They're just horrible. So I sent this off to the scientists at the top laboratories in America, and they sent it back and said this game clocks in at about a 40% on the moist meter. This game just doesn't feel fun to play. There's nothing in this game that Banjo-Kazooie didn't do better. I'm a big fan of the old collectathon games from N64 and PSX era, and I do believe that they can be fun in today's modern games. But this one, between the horrible camera, horrible controls, uninteresting levels, uninteresting characters, you're just going to be more bored and frustrated than you are going to be having fun. And it's unfortunate to say that because I had high hopes for this game. I supported it on Kickstarter. I was just really expecting this to be great. It had Grant Kirkhope. It had the whole team back together. The boys were back in town. But unfortunately, these boys were too dirty to make a clean game. It's just unfinished, and it's unfun. It's unfucking believable how bad the camera was. And it's unfortunate. Really it is. But hopefully they can learn from this game and hopefully make a better collectathon game or an old school rare game in the future. That'd be nice. Hopefully they don't just call it quits because Yooka-Laylee missed its mark. But until then, stay wet. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
I did not buy Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's true. It's not bullshit. I did not buy it. I did not. Oh, hi Jackson, who actually did impulsively buy this deluxe edition so he could play it 3 days earlier for the cost of $80. I would like to say, even if this turned out to be one of the best games I'd ever played, I would recommend not buying this game, just because of the anti-consumer practices implemented by EA. Even though they've made quite a few changes and a significant decrease in the amount of credits needed to unlock the heroes, it is still a very much pay-to-win game, which during the stream I kind of demonstrated because Jackson had a lot of credits that I opened some crates with that gave me quite an advantage. It's just a broken fucking system that is extremely greedy and preys on people to incentivize them to spend more money than they should. But even pushing aside the loot box bullshit, if you don't care about that and you can ignore all of that, the game here is not that great. It's average at best. Except for the campaign, my god, that is so fucking below average, I can't even put it into words. It belows anus really hard. It is so poorly written. It is so predictable. There is nothing redeeming about the campaign. I can give it 2 compliments though. It looks absolutely beautiful. It is an absolutely stunning visual campaign. It looks great. And it sounds great. The soundtrack is nice. The sound effects and everything, not so much, but the soundtrack is also very nice, which it's Star Wars. I've always been very partial to Star Wars soundtracks, and this game does a great job with it. But everything else about it is absolutely abysmal. Writing horrible, extremely predictable, nonsensical in a lot of portions, and the gameplay is so tedious and so boring in the campaign. Each objective was pretty much a defend point objective for X amount of time. There was a lot of space battles which quickly overstayed their welcome because they just throw wave after wave after wave of TIE fighter at you. A mindless fucking arcade shooter in the sky that never evolved and never really got fun again after the first couple of missions where you ended up doing that. You would have had a more enjoyable experience sitting your asshole on the business end of a jackhammer. It was brutal, and they didn't even have the decency to mix up the enemies. You always fought the same stormtroopers over and over and over again. They couldn't even throw out a fucking jetpack trooper. Anything to keep it fresh. It was always the same hordes of zombies, and it was not fun at all. It was fun for maybe the first hour. I thought it was okay. I kind of enjoyed a little bit of it. But man, does it overstay its welcome. There's so many sections in this game where you're just walking very slowly down a narrow hallway listening to poorly written exposition. Ah, Del, the Empire used to be so good, but now it's doing things I don't like, even though it's doing the same things it's done since I've joined, but I don't like it now all of a sudden. Del, I don't know what to do. Del, what are these feelings I'm feeling? Do I love you? I might love you, Del, but I'm not sure. What do I do? It's just nothing redeeming about the fucking campaign. Horrible experience. The multiplayer, though, however, is okay. It's not bad. It's enjoyable in short bursts. If you play for an hour, maybe 2 hours, and don't get matched with a whale that spent a shitload of money on loot boxes and starts meat hammering you with their unfair advantage, you'll probably have an enjoyable time. Assuming, of course, you stay away from the heroes versus villains game mode, because that is just brutally boring. That is horribly done. Awful hero versus hero combat. Jedi Knight did it much better 10 years ago. The Jedi Knight series needs to make a comeback, but not you, EA. Don't touch that property. Somebody else out there. We need a real hero out there to bring us more Jedi Knight games. This world needs it. We need a Chip Skylark to save pop music, and we need more Jedi Knight games to save Star Wars. Oh, also, I forgot to mention voice acting during the campaign portion, so I'll bring it up now. Voice acting was fine for the most part, but to the 8-year-old boy who voiced Kylo Ren in this game, please don't voice an adult male again. I know it's not your fault. Your agent just kind of booked this role for you. Probably thought you were going on to some Nickelodeon show, but please, leave the big boy characters to the big boys. From now on, I'll be the official voice of Kylo Ren. That'll be canon. But yeah, back to the multiplayer. Every other game mode except for the hero versus villains Roblox mod that they've implemented here is just fine. The other game modes are pretty enjoyable. There's a lot of different maps that I thought were well made for the most part. I will say, even playing the heroes outside of the hero vs. hero mode is still underwhelming. I actually preferred playing the grunts and the specialized grunts, which is upsetting because that was the best part of the real Battlefront games, the first Battlefront 1 and 2. Playing the heroes was really fun and rewarding in there, but here it's just a chore. You feel obligated to play the hero because they're undoubtedly better, but they're not very fun to play. I really don't have any major complaints about the multiplayer except for obviously the microtransactions aspect, but pushing that aside and just focusing on the game itself, I don't have anything that I really super duper hated. It just got really dull, boring, and repetitive the more I played it in one sitting. I can definitely see why it would be fun in short bursts, but I don't think anyone's going to sit down for 5 hours and enjoy playing it all 5 hours. I'd be very surprised. I would also like to mention there's a literal fucking cooldown on the amount of credits you can earn in a given set of time. So if you hit that cap, you have to wait 3 hours to earn more credits, so that way you don't progress faster than EA wants you to. And that is the most absurd fucking thing I've seen from a $60 game so far. Not only are the microtransactions incredibly awful, intrusive, and ruining the game, but they actually have a fucking cap on the amount of credits you can get, so that way you don't progress fast. That way you have to keep coming back to the game, and you have to keep very slowly grinding to keep putting more hours in the game to make it that much more enticing to buy loot boxes to speed it up. It's fucking sickening. Let's go ahead and pop this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving this a 40% sense of pride and accomplishment. And honestly, that's being very generous because the microtransactions and the other awful systems in place here, like the credit cooldown, really knocked this game well below what it could have been. But even if you can overlook some of these awful systems and you don't mind getting meat hammered by whales that spend a shitload of money on loot crates to get an unfair advantage over those who don't spend on microtransactions, the game that's here, the base game, is still not all that great. It's not groundbreaking. It is fun gameplay in short bursts, and I can see why people would enjoy it, and I enjoyed it in short bursts as well. But it's nothing that's going to be so gripping that you're going to be having cold sweats trying to go to sleep. Oh shit, Indoor really needs my help. I need to get back on the battlefield out there. It's just fun in short bursts, at best. There's nothing super great about it, and I would never recommend getting this game to even the most die-hard Star Wars fan. Like I said, at best, this is an average game with the gameplay, and I know a lot of people will probably be upset because I've really taken a lot of points off for all of the awful systems EA has in place, and people are going to say, but you can ignore all that. Well, you really can't, and you shouldn't ignore all that when reviewing a game objectively. Those kind of things take a major toll on the title. Especially the credit cooldown. That's not something you can ignore. If you're having a lot of fun, you're getting all these credits, you're getting so close to unlocking your favorite hero, bang, you're hit with a 3-hour fucking cooldown. Now you're probably going to be pretty upset. EA actually stops you from progressing the way you want to in order to play into their allotted time that you're allowed to get X amount of credits. It's unfair. It's just unfun. And it's something you can't and shouldn't overlook when reviewing a game like this. So yeah, fuck you EA, and once again I'd like to reiterate, I think it's important to not buy this game even if you really want it, because by buying this game and making this game very successful, this just sets the precedent for future games where they might implement similar systems, worse systems, the same system which is not on your side, and it makes the games a lot worse than they should be. And that's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
I wasn't even sure I was going to make a moist meter on this, but I honestly can't stop thinking about Fast and Furious Crossroad. The fact that this game even exists is an affront to God. It's almost like it's an insult to gamers everywhere. Like this was Vin Diesel dropping his pants and putting his ass on our face. The game is on another level of not good. I honestly don't know what happened because Vin Diesel used to make bangers in the video game world with the Riddick games, which from my understanding he had a personal hand in keeping afloat, but here they must have locked Vin Diesel in a fucking dog crate or something and only let him out to give him Scooby snacks and record his voice lines while he was half asleep. There is no passion in this game from anyone involved in it. This game is as bare bones as it possibly gets at its absolute best. At its worst, this game is a joke that they published for $60. There is 2 hours of gameplay in this game and about an hour's worth of cutscenes in total for $60. You would get more value out of $60 if you dropped it into a fucking volcano. If you took $60 and set it on the ground and waterboarded it with acid, that would be a better use of $60 than spending it on Fast and Furious Crossroad. Fucking spend $60 on non-nude OnlyFans on the impossible chance that you actually get a date out of it is a better use of your $60 and a healthier use than spending it on Fast and Furious Crossroad. Now, like I said, there's only 3 hours of campaign gameplay, but what I've neglected to tell you, the special sauce here, there's a multiplayer component as well. Unfortunately, I won't be able to cover the multiplayer component because there's only 8 fucking people on the PC that played this game when I had it. In total, there was 26, according to the charts that I found. 26 total people bought this on the PC. I was one of those stupid fucking goobers that bought this game. I knew it was going to be bad, but I thought it was going to be like an entertainingly bad game that just, it had a mission. It just wasn't able to execute on it or something. This, the only mission it had was to make you feel like a fucking idiot for buying it. I don't understand what happened here, but regardless, I couldn't play the multiplayer component, so I can't review it. I tried numerous times, and the most I ever found were 2 people who were also streaming the game at the same time I was, and we tried to coordinate a little get-together, but you need 9 fucking people in the lobby to start a multiplayer match. So the fact we got 3 wasn't good enough. We still needed to triple the turnout here. It's like the world's saddest Sweet 16 that we tried to organize. Nobody wanted to show up because the game is way too expensive for what you get. It's a piece of shit. It's terrible. Now let's go ahead and start with the campaign. The story chews asshole. It is absolutely terrible garbage. And what's even worse is it feels like there's cutscenes missing because out of nowhere things will happen. There's no intro cutscene, by the way. If you start the campaign, it immediately throws you into Letty's car as you're chasing around the fucking Batmobile or something. And you have to, use 2 abilities to take it down, which just sucks. It looks terrible. This game looks like it's straight out of the PS2 era. They didn't even bother putting any effort into its visuals. So when you see Vin Diesel hop out of his American muscle car for the first time, it feels like you're watching some college student's first attempt at using Maya 3D. It's really awful looking. Everything looks terrible. And like I said, it feels like there's cutscenes missing because they try and tell you a story. I mean, they have a lot of cutscenes in here, but nothing connects. So you have a cutscene where 1 second they're in the command center, the headquarters, like, all right, we gotta do this, this, and this. And then the next scene, they're in the fucking desert and they're not doing any of what they just said. They're just all of a sudden in the desert chasing the bad guy whom they were just saying they can't find. It doesn't make any sense. It feels like the things that connect these events together are just not there. Whether on purpose or by pure incompetence, I truly couldn't tell you. But you will not be able to follow the story, and you'll be constantly asking, why the fuck are we here? How did we get here? Is God even real? Are aliens among us? Did they make this game? There's so many questions that you're going to be left with because this game doesn't have answers to anything. The only answer this game provides is to the question of how quickly can I regret buying something, and the answer is immediately when you play this game. From the second you start this shit up, you are going to regret it. I can almost guarantee you that. Purchasing this game should come with a handwritten apology from the developer. It is truly that bad. I don't think anyone that worked on this game can possibly say in confidence that they're proud of their work. This seems like it was some kind of cash grab off the Fast and Furious franchise, but I don't know what they were expecting because it's not like anyone wants Fast and Furious games. They just like to go to the movie with a semi-chub and watch some action. It's not like they want to go home and have some kind of lackluster experience in that same universe. Unless someone is just really in love with the whole theme of family that they keep shoving down your throat, I just don't see you getting any enjoyment out of this game here. Family, 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 fucking family this, fucking family that. Who's fucking that family? This family's fucking that family. Everything is somehow about family when it comes to Fast and Furious. Why is there 8 people here and only 1 movie ticket? Because we're only one family. You almost had me, you never had me. You never had your car. Granny shifted, not double family like you should. Ask not what your family can do for you, ask what you can do for your family. 1 small step for man, 1 giant leap for my family. Everything is about fucking family. For no reason. It's super silly, and it really seems to want to prey on people that are lonely by making them believe by driving fast cars they somehow become part of Vin Diesel's family. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. All I know for sure, and I can tell you for sure, is the game sucks, asshole. This is a butt-sucking fuckfest. It is not good. It is terrible. It is bad. Plugging this into the moist meter, I'm giving Fast and Furious Crossroads a nice 10%. Now, why 10%, you say? I know you're asking that, scratching your head, Charlie, that seems a little high for everything you've said. Well, let me explain. This game is so astonishingly terrible that it crosses that threshold, the event horizon of so bad you can laugh at it. I won't say so bad it's good, because I would never use good in the same sentence as this game, but it is so laughably bad that you will have a good time laughing at it if you accidentally buy this game. Like if a burglar breaks into your house and buys this game for you, just to get revenge on you for something, the only saving grace is that you can laugh at the game. That's about it. That is all this game has going for it, is that you can just make fun of it and have a decent time poking fun at it. Other than that, this game is an absolute abomination. That's it. See ya.
Initiating moisture.
Detroit Become Human is David Cage's latest video game, and it takes a real deep look inside the mind of a David Cage. Now, when dealing with a David Cage, no one knows it better than David Cage himself, and he really let his entire scrotum hang out here in the wind for all to see, and it really led to a unique experience that's going to be different for every single player who picks up this game. I've always been kind of a fan of David Cage's work in some way or another. Even if I didn't so much like the game, I could at least respect it and appreciate it for what it was. However, I really liked this game, but it's absolutely not without a ton of flaws. The biggest thing about Detroit Become Human is the amount of choices that are available and how much those choices impact the overall story. Jackson, Andrew, and I have all played Detroit Become Human, and all three of our stories were entirely different from one another. Mine was more aggressive with a lot of violence and shit going on, whereas Jackson's was pretty much he just had the main characters getting fucked in any possible way for the sake of peace. You'd have them get run over by any car necessary if that's what it took, whereas I was the one running people over with a car in my story. And there's just so much shit that you could choose from that would drastically change how it all plays out. And a lot of games make that claim, but I've never seen one that has so many choices like Detroit Become Human has in every single scene. Everything can change based on a choice, and there's so many of those choices. It's incredible. It really makes me want to go back and replay it to do more choices and get different paths, and I did do that in my initial playthrough. If I wasn't so satisfied with what I chose, I actually went back and chose a whole new set of things to lead to an entirely different outcome. I'm just absolutely blown away by the amount of choices that this game gives you in anything. You can choose what you eat for breakfast. You can choose how hot or cold you want the fucking house. There is so many things that you can choose from that might even seem trivial on the surface, but could lead to something serious later down the line in that story. Absolutely the best part of this game. 100%. Now let's get to some bad parts about this game. It's not really a game. It's an interactive movie, and a lot of people are going to be very turned off by that, because there's really not much gameplay here. It all revolves around QTEs and walking from point A to point B on rails, straight lines. You don't have a whole lot of freedom of movement or gameplay. It's all about freedom of choices, and there's a ton of that shit, but I totally understand why some people would not like that it is just basically a movie that you can interact with and basically choose your own adventure from. And when there is gameplay here with the walking or the QTEs, it's very clunky, especially the walking. Sometimes when you press a button in a QTE, it doesn't work, and the walking is like you're controlling the world's drunkest tank. The tank itself is fucking inebriated, just fucking smashed, and it cannot go where you want it to go without stumbling, fumbling around, and leading to really frustrating movement. Now, aside from the stinky movement and lack of gameplay, and even calling it gameplay here is being very generous, the game is superb in terms of visuals. I've never seen a game look this great. All of the animations are absolutely fucking crisp and incredible to look at. The facial capture is incredible. You can see all types of emotions through their faces. The lip syncing for the most part is really great too, so it really feels like these characters are alive. Voice acting is some of the best I've heard for most of the characters. There are some characters with some awful voice acting, but for the most part I think the main cast do a great job. And now you have to keep in mind they're androids, so obviously some of the dialogue is going to be pretty stilted because they're not supposed to be superhuman. It's all about becoming human, as the title would suggest. Now, another thing that I also think is absolutely fucking fantastic is the sound design. The score, all of the sound in this game, it really brings everything to this living, breathing universe that David Cage creates here. It makes it feel super alive, which is nice. I have no complaints there, nothing but compliments for that entire department of audio. But now I want to get back into some shit that needs to be criticized. The writing gets really bad at points, just absolutely abominable, but you would expect that from a game with so much dialogue and all of it revolving around talking to each other and choices, but sometimes the writing is just some of the worst I've seen in a game, and there's a lot of shit that happens for no reason or things that happen just to happen, with absolutely no justification, and they're never touched on again or explained. It's just all over the place with writing, but when it's good, it's great, and when it's bad, man, it's some fucking B-movie, awful VHS tape shit that you don't even want to listen to. But the best thing I can say about Detroit Become Human, the absolute best way to sum up the entire game and the entire experience is Detroit Become Human is absolutely fantastic to laugh at and to play. So all this being said, let's pop this shit into the moist meter. I'm giving Detroit Become Human a 70%. The game is probably some of the most fun I've had streaming. I streamed the whole thing, and it was really enjoyable because it really is a very fun game to poke holes in and make fun of, and also just to get taken back by how great the environment is, and just to experience a very unique story that's going to be different for every single player that picks up the controller on this one. So yeah, overall, Detroit Become Human is definitely David Cage's best mess. That's it. See ya.